For Monday, April 15th, 2024. The City of Dawson Creek acknowledges that we are privileged to live and work on Treaty 8 territory in the traditional home of the Cree, Danaze, Saulteaux, Sicanee, and Slavey First Nations. We value the Métis peoples that live and gather here. We commit to upholding the respectful relationships these nations have built with the land, and we acknowledge our responsibility to carry that forward today and into the future. First order of business, delegations. 2.1, we have Elisa, Valentin, Human Resource Manager, City of Dawson Creek, in attendance regarding the proclamation to declare April 28th, 2024 as the annual day of mourning in Dawson Creek. So, welcome. Did I say your last name correctly?
It's Valentin. That's
Valentin,
okay.
sorry.
No, that's fine.
All right, so whereas the Day of Mourning was initiated by Canadian Labour Congress in 1984 and is recognized worldwide, and whereas the Day of Mourning is a day to take time to remember lost coworkers, friends, and family who lost their lives, were disabled or injured in the workplace, and those afflicted with industrial disease. And whereas we earnestly seek to set an example and reflect on our commitment to the issues of health and safety in the workplace. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2024 as the annual day of mourning in Dawson Creek. So, thank you. I just wanted to touch on a little thing. Last year, I remember when I did this, it was the first year I was kind of exposed to it, but it was pretty eye-opening. So I have a few numbers from last year. So in 2023, there was 175 deaths in BC, 82 traumatic fatalities, and 93 due to disease. The biggest part that shocked me was the amount that was in the Peace region. We were a substantial percentage of those statistics. So, you know, a lot says maybe to do with industry, weather, winter, roads, but it just reminds me that there's nothing more important in life than life itself. So we need to take our time. We need to slow down. You know, life can be so rushful in our day-to-day life, but it's just where we got to slow down, take a breath, and just get there and take one moment at a time, because none of it is worth paying that ultimate price, which these individuals have done. So, and I know some of it is due to disease that has, you know, happened over the last 30, 40, 50 years. That was another, you know, pretty astonishing number. So it's something we can't change from the past, but we can learn from that. And I believe we do a great job in society with that and moving forward. So, yeah, so I think you wanted to say a few things. So,
So all I want to do is to just add on that everyone is welcome to attend our ceremony that we're having on the 26th at 11 o'clock. It will be here at City Hall at the Workers' Memorial out on the lawn, and we will have some light refreshments after. We will have some words said by Councillor Kemp, as well as an individual from each one of our unions will have something to say as well. So we invite everyone to attend. It is open to the public. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. And it was a great ceremony last year. Unfortunately, I'm out of town on this one, so Councillor Kemp is going to take my spot and speak at it. But it's, I don't know, it's just a great day to really honor everybody. And I know the city itself has lost a few over the years, so it's it hits home with the city. So, yeah, so thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know if Melissa's getting a picture or no. All right, next order of business is 2.2. We have Chelsey Yaremichuk, Community Event Liaison, City of Dawson Creek, in attendance regarding the proclamation to declare April 22nd to the 28th, 2024 as Pitch in Canada Week in Dawson Creek. So welcome.
Thank you.
All right, whereas hundreds of thousands of Canadians show their concern for the environment in their communities each year by participating in Pitch in Canada projects to refuse, reuse, recycle, and properly dispose of waste, clean up and rejuvenate local neighborhoods, green spaces, ravines, waterways, and illegal dump sites, restore habitats, and to establish composting and recycling projects. Whereas Pitch Canada, a national community-based organization comprised of eco-action and community volunteers, believes that maintaining a quality environment and encouraging civic pride is everyone's responsibility. Whereas Pitch Canada encourages voluntarily action to keep communities clean and beautiful and restore and maintain a healthy environment. Now, therefore, I hereby proclaim the week of April 22nd to 28th, 2024 to Pitch Canada Week and invite all citizens in our region to participate in Pitch Week. So, welcome. And I want to thank you for your part in this. I know you're a big part of the success of Pitch Week in Dawson Creek in the area, but also want to thank our community that gets together and gets out and cleans up. And just another thing too is just because this is the week and it's coming out of winter doesn't mean that this is the only time we should clean up in the week. I mean, part of looking after our land and our areas is to do this ongoing. And you know, whether it's the simple things in life to me that make the biggest difference, and whether that is you're walking down the street and there's a piece of paper, like to pick it up and put it away means nothing out of our time, but it's just those little things that help make our place a better place. And if we all contribute, it just makes it that much better. So, yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And I will give you that. You want to add a bit?
So yeah, I just wanted to add on the fact that we are also hosting a community cleanup, which is running the 6th until the 17th of May. Registration is now open. I have approximately 27 sites that are still available. It is a $200 honorarium for a local nonprofit organization. However, not saying the business is also able to participate in that and then gift the $200 honorarium to a nonprofit organization. So pickup will be on the 3rd of May at City Hall in the basement, as well as you can give community services a call to register. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think we...
Oh.
No. I'm putting the pressure on her this morning.
Yeah.
Perfect. There you go. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
You're welcome. Learn how to shut a mic off. I'll be doing all right here. There we go. All right, our next order of business is 2.3. We have Chante, Patterson-Elden, and Lisa Ward, co-chairs the National Women's U18 Championship Host Organizing Committee in attendance regarding the 2023 National Women's U18 Hockey Championship. So welcome, ladies. I'm excited to have you here, and I'm sure it'll come up lots, but I will thank you before you get started for one, attending today, but mostly for the amount of effort and time you put into this event and numerous events, but this one specifically on, it was just an amazing event, extremely successful, and a big part was you too. So thank you to both of you. So, and welcome.
Thank you through your worship, council, staff, guests, and online viewers. Thank you for having us today. Ryan MacGyver has asked us to do an overview of the 2023 Women's U18 National event in Dawson Creek, November 2023. As the co-chairs of the event, we're here to share the story with you of the amazing people that made this happen. It's not just Lisa and I, it's about the people, and it's about the entire region who believe in the vision set out by the city of Dawson Creek. I am Chante Patterson-Elden, one of the co-chairs.
And I'm Lisa Ward. So, to start, we'd like to share some stats from this event. Ticket sales far exceeded our projections with over 10,000 fans attending. We hosted 8 teams, 160 athletes, 63 support staff, 18 officials, and numerous delegates and scouts. Over 200 hotel rooms totaling over 1,400 room nights were utilized in our city. As well, 5,800 meals were served between the Ovintiv Event Centre, 8 local restaurants, just by participants and volunteers. This number is much higher if you take into consideration all those who came from out of town. There were 24 events around our region over 8 days. 9 schools were visited by teams and 10 venue days were hosted at the Ovintiv Event Centre.
There's a lot of people to thank, and with that, there's so many people. We'll do a quick overview. So the city of Dawson Creek, I mean, it started many years ago, I think, with Mayor Mike Bernier, the CAO Jim Shute, Barry Raynard, and Ryan McIver for bringing the idea of the 2009 Olympic Women's Hockey Camp to Dawson Creek area. From there, the relationship with Hockey Canada has expanded. So thank you to the city of Dawson Creek for always believing in this and setting money aside, and we have a great framework to work forward. The Peace River Regional District, we want to make sure we shout out to them with the national event funding that they provide for us. It's a great way to start with the event, to have that funding to be able to start going. Hockey Canada and the sponsors with Hockey Canada, like without them, they've been amazing. They've started us with a framework that we're able to do things, and they're just amazing people, and we've learned so much through a legacy of learning through them. The partnership with the District of Chetwynd, what can we say? That's just amazing with them. They've hosted events with us throughout the time that we had. Soto, West Moberly First Nations for hosting the pre-game event in the community, and Steve McLean and Ellen McAvaney and their community for the great work that they do. The partnership with the District of Tumbler Ridge is another one. It's just amazing to work with them, to work with the Recreation Department, to be able to host these events, and it's great because with the funding that we get, it is a regional event, and we try to make sure that we send those events out. The local and regional sponsors, without them, I don't know what we would do. Like every time we have that funding, they come and they support us, and it's just amazing to have that funding. And thanks to our directors, Lindsay Bork and Aaron Powell, for their passion in finding the funding. The schools, a shout out to Melissa from the School District of 59 then, now your CFO, her and our Director of Development and Community Engagement for collaborating with the schools. We had schools from Chetwynd, Tumbler Ridge, the rural schools, and Dawson Creek participating in the event. It was just an amazing event, and Elisa will touch on that a little bit later. The spectators, we exceeded the ticket sales. The marketing team from Ovintiv, Judy, Emily, did a great job. Just a shout out to them, people for buying those tickets. Host committee, their dedication for 3 years. The Ovintiv Event Center, their team is just gurus in what they do. And most of all, we want to make sure the last one is the volunteers. The volunteers that show up each and every day to come and make this happen. This makes hers and my job and our committee's job way easier. We just had a few pictures in here. In the bottom left-hand corner is a picture of the regional support with the District of Tumbler Ridge, PRD, Elder Doki, the mayor of Dawson Creek. You know, it's just amazing. It was at the closing event with the staff sergeant from Chetwynd who came in. Just a phenomenal group.
With the success of this event, we were able to put $51,177 back into the region right now instead of waiting for the completion of the 5-year contract with Hockey Canada like we've done in the past. I won't read them all, but we are assisting 17 associations or community groups now. These include the venue improvements to the event centre, granting $10,000 back to the regional district, and creating an endowment bursary at the Northern Lights College for Women in Sport. We are very honored to have the privilege to contribute to all of these worthy groups. So there's quite a list there.
Local and regional legacy, increased traffic to Dawson Creek, Chetwynd, Tumbler Ridge, and the Peace. Traffic at Fort St. John and Grand Prairie airports, hotel nights, restaurants and groceries, store traffic, local business traffic, sales and local media and marketing. Introduced a new busing company to the area. New regional support and recognition to the Northern Lights Foundation 50/50. Many family members traveled to Dawson Creek that had people skating. $7,500 in 50/50 to the Northern Lights Foundation, which is going to be used for development. We had two sets of hockey ball donated to Notre Dame, and Tim Hortons Smile Cookies, which was 2 organizations that did that, MLA, Mike Bernier, and Bannister, GM.
As I'd stated earlier, and Chante did as well, we had 9 schools hosting the 8 teams and 18 officials for a few hours on their day off of play. Part of Hockey Canada's commitment to their host community is encouraging the teams to give back by engaging with the schools. All the elementary schools in School District 59, as well as Mountain Christian School, hosted teams where they either played games or did reading and crafts in different classes. South Peace Athletic Development class hosted the officials, where they provided them with lunch, a question period, and games in the gym. We were also able to extend invitations to all the schools in the region to attend a game and cheer on the teams. We hosted over 2,100 of these students from all over Dawson Creek, Chetwynd, and Tumbler Ridge. It was awesome to watch how involved the students got and how electric the atmosphere was for players and the fans alike.
2,100 students, wow, that's amazing. The partnership between West Moberly First Nations, Soto First Nations, Dawson Creek, Tumbler Ridge, Chetwynd, Peace River Regional District, and Hockey Canada tells the story of the importance of hosting shared events in our region. A ceremony was held at the event identifying the importance of this relationship between Hockey Canada, the First Nations, and our regional communities. This is a place of honor and celebrating First Nations truth and reconciliation. And as you can see on there, we did so many events, which was great with the First Nations partnerships. We did the pre-game, land acknowledgement, drumming ceremony, and the partnership, and then as well, we did the closing event with the prayer.
So part of the role of the Director of Development and Community Engagement is to support local athletes and their personal development. For this event, Megan, along with BC Hockey, hosted the 2021 and 2022 Deep Northern Female Development Camp, where over 90 girls across the piece participated each of those years in a preseason conditioning camp with both off-ice and on-ice skills. During the event, she organized the meet and greet breakfast with former National Women's Team alums Sherry Piper and Fiona Smith, a mental health and diversity presentation for all of the minor hockey players, an officiant seminar, and coaching clinic geared to female athletes.
Each and every event has a common factor. It's our special volunteers that are here. Our community and area volunteers are the heart of a community. They love living in the Peace River region and showcasing the community, and it's shown in every event that we do. They're just proud to be a host in our community. We also had the organization that volunteered, some great ones that keep coming back is the DC Old Post, DC Old Timers, DC Minor Hockey, Miles Air Figure Skating Club, the Northern Lights Foundation. Each year, the City of Dawson Creek staff also come in and fill that. So thank you very much to the staff at the City of Dawson Creek for being able to come and fill that out. This year, we also had Northern Lights College staff coming and filling some of those gaps during the day. So big shout out to them. Some of the new things that happened this year that we're very proud of was the Appreciation Volunteer Night, sponsored by MLA Mike Bernier and Brother John's. It was a way that we could thank our thank our volunteers in the middle of the event, and it went really, really well. We also provided 2 meals this year for the host committee because it was really important. We were there from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, and the Vintive Center did a great job. And then the biggest thing and the most thing that we're most proud of is the relationship with Tim Hortons that fed all of our volunteers 2 times every day. And that was great. There was lots of food for them. They were there. They felt appreciated. So that was a great, great way to do it. And we're very, very thankful because our volunteers are golden. Sorry.
Our slogan was, "Where greatness begins." And for 4 regional players, this is just the beginning for them. We were fortunate to have these 4 remarkable ladies make their respective teams and get to play in front of a hometown crowd. McKenna Lloyd Howe from Tumbler Ridge played for Team BC, Molly Hamilton of Baytree, Riley McLeod of Grande Prairie, and Sarah Shamus from Valhalla Center all played for Team Alberta. We congratulate all 4 on their accomplishments and know this is only their beginning. Dawson Creek Sport Tourism has played an integral role in the hosting of Hockey Canada events over the years in Dawson Creek. Having a full-time staff member to pick up tasks like liaising between Hockey Canada, the local host committee, and the city was integral in the planning stages back in 2021. Losing that assistance made the jobs of the chairs, Chante and I, and the committee that much harder as they were all working full-time jobs, we all were, and still trying to organize this huge event. Tasks like grant applications, sponsorship tracking, and VIP participation scheduling is all very tedious and can be very time-consuming. And this year, without the help of sport tourism, it became very onerous on both of us and the rest of the group. Chante and I have always been very passionate about what we envision sport tourism to be in Dawson Creek. We see the need to have a division of tourism that can support not only sporting events in the event center, but for all associations and facilities in our city. We see this morphing into a self-sufficient organization down the road. We'd be more than willing to sit down with you at a later date and discuss this further as we want to ensure that events like this have continued success in our region.
The sponsorships are very, very key, and as you can see, we raised $85,000 through this. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can see like Transdev, Pomeroy, Peace River Regional District aren't on here, but they had $100,000. And they're just important for us to have that. And Mountain View Safety, they're the ones that did all our first aid. So it's just great. And again, thank you to our dream team. Lindsay and Aaron and Judy and Emily did a great job with all of the marketing in there. We also did get 2 grants, and Lisa will talk a little bit about those 2 grants because that was integral in the success of this event as well.
So the 2 grants that we were able to receive this year was the BC Fairs Festival Events Grant, which was $55,900. That was a new grant that the province of BC had put out last year for any city that was doing an event. So we were very happy with that. The other one we received was the Northern Development Initiative Trust grant for marketing, which was $20,000. So those definitely helped our budget.
These are just a few pictures of some of the sponsors. Again, I'm not going to get into so many details, so many people that come and support us every year.
So last but not least, we want to end by thanking our dedicated board of directors. We were a small but mighty group who persevered over 2.5 years of starts and stops to make this event the success it was. I will end with this quote by Stephen King. Talent is cheaper than table salt. What separates the talented individual from the successful one is a lot of hard work.
And there we go.
Perfect. Thank you very much, ladies. Just before I open it up, I wanted to add just a couple things. One, that the event, when it was here, I did a little bit of research just on female hockey in Canada. And the first national event in Canada, there was 9,000 registered female hockey athletes. And this year or last year, there was 100,000. So it's phenomenal to see how things have changed and how that it's just diversifying, right? Like, and to see those athletes that were here, I couldn't thank them enough for how professional and how amazing they were. But also like the partnership, just see the partnerships there, whether it's within our community, regionally, is really what it's about. Like, this was a regional thing, and it was just done amazing at every aspect. And then the volunteers, I mean, it doesn't happen without that. And Dawson Creek is known for the people and how amazing they are. But the most important thing that I seen there was is everything we do in life is about inspiring youth. And to see the youth that were coming in there, whether it was the schools or the young girls or athletes that got to drop the pucks and hang out with the team, like, just to see the passion in our community and those young kids, like, all excited. And, like, to me, that's what it's all about, because that's the real win, is the legacy that leaves with those youth and those kids, and they get to see it. So, yeah, it was just, it was pretty touching. I've been around a lot of these events. That was the first one that I got to see firsthand and be right in there and involved. So it was pretty amazing. So, and really just thank you to both of you, because without you, none of that would have happened. So thank you. And
You're
thanks
welcome.
for coming today. Yeah.
Lisa and I don't think that. We sometimes feel uncomfortable because, yes, we are 2 people, but it takes people like Ryan MacGyver in his seat. It takes people like Mayor and Council. It takes all the volunteers, all of our committee
Yeah.
members, those people that do the little extras. Like, we have so many stories we could share and share those things that they make a difference. And we're just honored to have been able to be the co-chairs and work through the 2.5 years to get it here. But again, it's thanks to all of them.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Our community,
Yes,
our region.
exactly.
We do have a presentation for you.
But I don't know if they got
okay.
questions. Do you want to do
Do you
questions?
want to do
or
that now or the
presentation?
questions first? Or
We'll do
what?
questions.
Okay. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. You took most of the words out of my mouth. I just wanted to reiterate what His Worship said. Thank you. Being in the building, watching those students at those games was so much fun. They brought such atmosphere to the building. The team at the Eventive Center knocked it out of the park once again. They do such a great job. So just a massive thank you to you, your board, the volunteers, sponsors, everybody. It's a privilege for our small town and our region to be able to host such amazing world-class events like this. And it's through the tireless effort like those of yourselves. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald.
In the Ovintive Center, Ryan and his team do an amazing job. Like, you come there, they fill in all the blanks, everything. The marketing plan is great. They are phenomenal, like each and every one of them. So remember that when you see, like, we can't thank them enough.
Yeah, they have an amazing team there. They do a
Yeah,
great
it's a
job.
great venue to be able to host.
Yeah. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship, and yeah, no, they do a great job over there. So to echo their sentiments, thank you very much. I didn't make it to nearly as many games as I would have liked, but the ones I did see were phenomenal hockey. So thank you for making that come together. I guess one quick question I have with respect to accommodations around sponsorship, just with respect to Pomeroy, I see that's a cash sponsorship, and is that predicated upon a booking preference? Is that, or is it just something they do as part of their commitment to hockey in the community?
We might have to get Ryan to say what the name is, but
Okay.
they have a fund
I'm
that they
that's
provide for each
part
of
of
the
what-
hotels and the money comes in. But I will let Ryan explain it because he's better to explain than I am.
Through your worship, to answer your question, yes, it's the Pomeroy group of hotels or properties has a program called the Rural Destination Marketing Fund, and they do a collection of a percentage on the hotel rooms that are booked throughout the year, every day, throughout the communities in which they work, and there's an allocation that's identified back for the Peace region, I would say. And then they have a board of directors, people can apply to it, and then they can receive funding back for their events and activities.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just looking for a bit of information with respect to some other conversations we're having as part of our strategic plan around an MRDT. So I was wondering if that sponsorship was in any way tied to a preference in booking for anyone. Okay, so it's independent of that. Yeah, I think that was chiefly my my one question around that. Other than to say, yeah, it was a really wonderful opportunity for the community. As always, it's great to see, kids get to see what they can achieve when they apply themselves, and it was a good time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl.
One of the successes too is the 4 players that were in the area. Like, I mean, we sold a lot of tickets because that you think of those families, the Seamus family, the McLeod family, the Hamilton family,
Yeah.
and then the House family. Like, it's just phenomenal to have them. They've been here for a while, right? Rooted in our community, Beaver Lodge, Hype.
Yeah. Yeah, it was neat to see, especially not especially, but it just even the district of Tumbler, like that group that came down to cheer for her. Like, it was, it's just added to it, the excitement. Yeah.
Just exceeded the expectation of tickets, totally.
Yeah, that's awesome. Councillor Apollonio?
Thank you, Your Worship, and of course, just echoing all the sentiments of thank you very much. Of course, especially from my community. It's really a very interesting event during that week. Of course, thank you very much, Kyle, for your generous. Because of that, many of our from the community able to watch the hockey. I think that's the week that I have the most hockey events that I attended in a week. So thank you very much. So and it is on our part is the educational piece for us, how hockey is being played, and and meeting all the students and of course the community gathering together. So thank you very much in behalf of the community, and and may you continue doing what you are doing. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Councillor Apollonio.
Ready for the presentation?
Any other ones? Yeah.
What do you think?
The rose between 2 thorns?
Yeah, I get the fun stuff now. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
City
both
Dawson.
for everything you've done.
Thank you, guys.
Some space on the wall or what?
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, our next order of business is 2.4. We have Johanna Martens, Executive Director, and Dory Braun, the Chair, the chair of the Kiwanis Performing Arts Center, in attendance regarding the Peace Arts Festival sponsorship. So welcome, ladies. And it was nice meeting you, Dory. Just going to push that button on the mic, Johanna, and then I will turn it on.
Oh, are we on?
Oh,
Ready?
now you're on. Yeah. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here today. We want to talk about the Peace Arts Festival. So I've been privileged to have been involved in a number of conversations in our community. One of them around kind of retention, people wanting to move into our community and how do we keep folks here in our community. Another one around, of course, the crime and the drugs and, the negative, conversation that's been happening here in Dawson Creek. And so it's really made me think about, what's the common link in all of this. And to me, it's the significance and belonging, that everybody here is looking to find a piece of significance and belonging, that they belong to our community and that they can contribute to our community. And one of the ways that I believe we can achieve that is through our arts and culture. Arts and culture allows us to express ourselves, to share who we are, and gives us that meaning and significance and belonging. So the Peace Arts Festival was born kind of out of this want to kind of bring people together to celebrate what it is that we have in our community, to showcase, the many talents that we have, because we have so many beautiful, talented artists in so many different avenues that they do their craft in. So we brought together a committee in about September of last year to start talking about what could this be, what could we create. So out of it was this Peace Arts Festival. So we've aimed to bite off the weekend of the June 7th, 8th, 9th weekend there, to find programming, to fill programming with all sorts of ideas from different people. So we have right now, I'll tell you the list of different activities we have going on. From our pottery group, we have a raku demonstration that they would really like to do. And I'll let Dory talk about what raku is, because it's really something amazing for our community.
Thank you, Your Worship. Raku, just quickly, is a Japanese firing technique, so it's a very instantaneous experience for people who are not really familiar with pottery. It's a great introduction because there's lots of drama and instant gratification, because usually it takes a long time for something to happen, but with this process, you can see something go into the kiln and come out, and it's changed within like 15 minutes. So it's very exciting. We're hoping to do that down at the NAR Park and have everybody be able to watch and interact and
and be a part of it. So the big thing with our festival is that it is a decentralized festival that happens in multiple locations across our community. The art gallery and the art gallery parking lot is definitely one of our locations. Us down at KPAC are another location, but we go as far out to Rolla, out to the Rolla Hall, and they're hosting a number of workshops and live music out there as well. So it really tries to encompass the entire community, where everybody has an opportunity to either come out, share, participate, or be part of it. So we just recently got some grant funding through the BC Arts Council to host now a big opening ceremony that will happen on our Thursday evening down at KPAC, where we'll bring in some Indigenous artists that will perform some live music for the community, and then later on they'll be hosting some workshops. But this event has really pulled together so many of our community members, where we have over 20 different community groups that have come out that want to share their crafts and arts. Like I said, the raku is one of the things from our Potters group. We also have some phenomenal artists like Carl Matson, who is a welder in our community. He wants to be part of the festival and show some welding demonstrations out at his farm, which will take place in a artist spaces tour. So similar to what the garden tours do in the summertime, we're hoping to have a map that we share with the community, so you on your own leisure can drive around and check out some of these cool spaces. So whether they be people's home studios, properties, we have some lovely gardeners that want to show off their properties and host some workshops around doing some garden art. So it will really be a cool opportunity for people to see different things. We're also going to be hosting a number of different film premieres and films down at KPAC over the course of the weekend. We have Trina Gower, who has put out a wonderful film. She'll be hosting that and premiering it it down at KPAC. We also have the Macwood team, as well as Rob Brown hosting some films. And then we're going to end it on the Sunday with a bunch of local short films that students have made. So again, wanting to inspire students and get our youth involved in whatever capacity they can. So speaking of the youth component, we also have the art gallery hosting a number of art classes for kids over that weekend. And then our Pride Society would like to do a little art activity with kids where they can come down to KPAC and they can color our bricks on there. So pick a brick. They can come down with chalk and color the bricks over the weekend and kind of make some fun art. We also have Kaylee Oldershaw, who is a phenomenal artist in our community, where we were able to get funding through the art gallery for her to paint a beautiful mural, which is meant to be left up kind of over the course of the summer. And it was kind of inspired by the idea of, you know, how most folks, our communities will have the wings and you go take your photo op. She's going to do something similar, but base it around bees, which is very, you know, fitting for our area and stuff. So she's doing this wonderful mural, and we're hoping to leave it up so that we drive tourism down into our downtown area. And people want to come down and take their photo op for that and have something that each year we can change that out. So that's really cool. We also want to have a lot of live music. So like I said, the Rolla Hall got funding through their avenues to be able to host some free live music that they'll be hosting. They have macrame workshops happening out there. We have our local Kiwanis band and their group hosting a squeak and squawk event. So if you've ever wanted to try any of the cool musical instruments they have, then that'll be your opportunity. So like I said, I could go on and on about all of the number of community groups and people that have come out to want to be a part of this event. And again, similar to what you talked about with the hockey, we are so excited and thrilled to see people just wanting to get involved and be a part of this event. So we are really asking for the city to help us with this. Number one, we definitely would like to have some cash sponsorship. We've asked for a $5,000 sponsorship. What we would like that money to go back to is to all of the many community groups that are giving their time to put this event together. We really want to be able to give everybody an honorarium for their time and being able to come out, so in whatever capacity that they can show, but also the bigger thing too is helping us with sharing the message that this is happening, and through your avenues of marketing and your tourism, you know, help to share that we really want to have this huge community celebration and to just share that message. So I think that's all I have. Did I miss something?
No, I don't think so. I think
No.
that this year we're starting from Thursday over the weekend, but we're hoping to expand it to a week-long festival eventually. So, and then like this year we're focusing on Rolla. Next year we might focus on Poos or another area so each year we would do artist tours of different artist studios in different areas locally so that we can all get to know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and again, just to mention, it is meant to be, this is the first of many, many years. We want to have this as an annual event and something that we're really celebrating and becomes one of our signature events that we host here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both, ladies. And I had the privilege of attending one of the meetings. I think it was last week or the week before. So
Yeah.
it was amazing just to see how far it's come and how much is on the agenda for that week. So, I think a little deeper, you touched on community, and that's a big thing for all of us here as community, and how do we bring our community together, and having something like this, like a week-long showcasing the amazing individuals, our community, all of it, it's really what it's about. Like, it brings the community together. Anytime we can do these things where it's, just giving somebody hope and something to look forward to, it's just amazing. So thank you for the effort. I see now when I was there firsthand how much effort has gone into the planning. So thank you to both of you, but I know that there's a lot of you that are contributing to this, so thank you very much. So, and I'm looking forward to it. So I will open it up to council here. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Welcome. Thank you. You mentioned trying to do the pottery at NAR Park and the art gallery. There is major construction going on this year. Have you been in discussions with Duncan and knowing that it'll be able to work around the construction?
Yeah, Duncan is part of that, and Kit is part of the RACU.
Okay.
So it's actually through the art gallery that the RACU is not actually the Potters Guild.
Okay.
It's actually the art gallery that's holding it.
So no worries about having space.
And we did
Okay.
have a lovely conversation here on Friday with Ryan McIver here, to discuss kind of anything that we may need to apply for as far as extra permits, or so we'll be filling out the city's, event permits and making sure that that's all up to speed. But yeah, it's like I said, it's supposed to be decentralized, and so most of our venues that we're hosting, this is what we do, right? We host these types of events, so.
Wonderful. The other question I had, because it is still taking part during the school year, have you been in communication with the school district at all to get them to be a part with students?
Yeah, we have kind of reached out to them. I don't have anything affirmative with them, but definitely we see opportunity there, as well as with Northern Lights College. We're hoping that the Exploring Art group there will be a part of the event, and that they'll be part of the Artist Spaces tours. And yes, definitely through the film program. I think a lot of those films are coming from school students from last year, I believe, as well.
Nice. Wonderful. I completely agree with the mayor. I think any events that brings, and yourselves actually, any events that bring the community out and together and sense of pride and togetherness is always wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Parslow?
How long ago was it since we had a festival such as this?
Well, I don't know that we've had a festival really such as this. I mean, we at KPAC used to, for a number of years, host the South Peace, or it was the South Peace Community, no, what was it called now? Another different arts festival that we used to host, but it was really centered around adjudication for music and dance students. So it never really encompassed the entire community as this. But with that festival, what we did see throughout COVID and stuff was a huge decline in students. And so we stopped that festival here last year. And so what we pivoted towards is this. So all the funding that for us as KPAC we would have put towards that festival, we've now put into this, because we see it has so much more impact on the community. So aspects of what we used to have will still be included in this event, but then even expanded more to include everybody.
Yeah, I think that adjustment is good. In the 80s, there was a very well-established, let's call it Festival of the Arts, in a very different way, and I support this direction for sure. But, I am a huge supporter of this. And, one of our challenges here in the Peace region, you just touched on it, is for a whole host of reasons, which I don't want to get into. We have a very difficult task in recruiting professional people to come and work here and live here. And I know from other sources that, and from a personal point of view, one of the reasons that I came here was the array of opportunity in the arts that was here. It has all been lost. And I see this as a nice resurrection, not only the importance, but also people can see that we're not just about protest and all this other stuff, that this is a good place to live and that we do have a lot to offer. And having this as an annual event, as you were saying, Dory, is, I think, just a bit of a thing that we can put in our profile as a community of what we're about. Because as you've listed off many wonderful people, who I've had the pleasure of either seeing their work or listening to them. And so we have lots of assets. And having something like this celebrates that and exposes that, and is also, I think, part of the mosaic of things that need to happen to bring people here to, whether they be teachers, doctors, respirologists, or we could listen on and on and on. We need them to come here. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Anyone else? Councillor Earl.
Thank you, and thank you both for coming. Good to see you again. So I guess looking at this, we're a little over, 5-6 weeks out, presumably. Above and beyond sponsorship, and you mentioned some promotional support from Elisa. What can we do to help you get the word out? Because that's one thing I do worry is summer's a busy time and people are very, very protective of their weekends. once it gets warm, and we want to make sure they know well in advance to set aside some time to come downtown.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of marketing being launched. We do have our website that definitely you can direct anybody to, which is just thepeaceartsfestival.ca. That has all of our up-and-coming information. We'll soon be launching on their schedules now that we are firming everything up and it's coming out. But yeah, just sharing the message, sharing the word to stick around this weekend. There very well may be, opportunities we'd love to have and see every one of you out at any of our events. So please come out to any of them. There's a number of them that are free, as well as some that are paid. So a whole variety of ways to get involved, but just sharing the message that we're doing this.
All right. Well, if you want to mention to, I don't know if Curtis is the one doing the marketing, but if he wants to send me some screens for the credit union, I can probably swing that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Apollonio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, nice seeing you, Johanna, as always. And of course, Ms. Dar, nice to meet you. Yeah, I just want to ask, because we normally participate in the yearly event. So the summer fusion will be different, or this will be now part of the...
This is different. So June is a very busy month for us. Yeah. So we're starting the month with our Peace Arts Festival, but then what happens at the end of June is the Multicultural Fusion Fest that happens through the South Peace Arts Council. But yes, very much your group was involved there. Yeah, for sure. Even during this Peace Arts Festival, we do have Flavors 8 as one, and the GDI Lounge as one of our venues here, and I know that's the beginning of Filipino month, and so I do know that they'll be hosting a bunch of cultural dances and different things there throughout our weekend as well. So yes, trying to get everybody again involved as much as we can.
Yeah, okay, of course. Thank you, Johanna, for always inviting us. Yeah. I already received the invitation that we will perform and dance. I don't know. But we will do our best. You will see me on the stage.
Wonderful.
And of course, just a shout out, thank you to Danica, your music therapy teacher. Yes. She's doing a great job.
Oh, she's fabulous.
For these individuals that we're looking after. Thank you.
Good. That's it. We like to hear that things are working well.
I was waiting for somebody to ask Councillor Apollonio to show us the dance. And okay, well, thank you again, ladies, and everybody that's putting this on. And later on in the agenda, when we go through mayor's updates, we'll go through on your request, and we'll get back to you and let you know.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Have a great day. Next, we have 2.5. Is that all good to go, Ashton? Yeah. Next, we have 2.5, Lindsay Taylor, Manager, BC Transit, in attendance regarding the UMO fare policy changes. So, Lindsay is joining us via Teams. So, Lindsay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, welcome, Lindsay. And the floor.
Fabulous. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming, and the floor is all yours.
Okay, fabulous. I will just share my screen so I can share my presentation. Can everybody see that there?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. So thank you, Council, for having me this morning. My name is Lindsay Taylor. I am the Government Relations Manager for Northern BC at BC Transit. I'm here to bring to you today a couple of different fare changes that's coming up as a result of an exciting project. We have an electronic fare collection system that is going into your system in the coming couple of weeks. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So all of the buses are being equipped with electronic fare collection technology, and it's going to be a way for our riders to be able to purchase products and to pay for their fares in a new way. So they're going to be able to use a card to either tap and use their fare, or to be able to pay using their cell phone through an app called UMO. And it's a new convenient option for our customers, and it's going to be able to help hopefully increase ridership, as it's just a different way for our customers to be able to pay. With that, though, also cash will remain an option will continue to remain an option for people to be able to pay for transit. So the customer-facing components of this is the UMO app and the reloadable card. The card will be available through different retail vendors, and also which is going to be at City Hall as well. And it's managed through a customer website. We also have a dedicated customer call center as well, where anybody is able to call to be able to upload any funds to their card. People will also see validators on board. That's where they're going to be able to tap either their card or the UMO app. In the future, we'll also be moving to the option of being able to pay debit or credit as a tap payment as well. So a couple of different pieces that are important for council, as council is responsible for making decisions around fares. So this one's for information. And so one of the pieces is anybody who has $10 or more on either their app or their card, if they would like to have a refund as part of that, they have the ability to do that either at a fare vendor or also through the UMO app or by calling the call center. So this isn't something that we've had available before, obviously, because we have not had this technology. So that's one piece that's going to be new for customers to be able to do. And so someone would be using this, hey, they're moving from BC and not going to be able to use their card anymore. The UMO the UMO card also, or the UMO app, is going to be able to be used in transportation systems across BC. So anywhere that has the UMO technology implemented into their system. So we have a number of systems across BC. So it also just makes it easy for people that are traveling across systems or across BC to be able to have the same sort of a fare payment system. The other piece of that is there's going to be a cash balance that people can add, so like a purse, I guess, that what people would say for on their card or on their app. And so as people upload money onto their card, it gets deducted from their card. One of the pieces that's important, though, is that will cap. So say Dawson Creek has a day pass. So once somebody taps their card twice in one day, there'll be a cap there where they won't have to pay any more to be able to use the system throughout the day. So it acts essentially as a day pass. The other piece is the universal expiration policy. So through the UMO app or through the UMO card, people are able to purchase 10 rides essentially, and so that will expire after 365 days. So that's going to be a new piece also for our users. Right now, any users that do still have tickets for the system, they are still able to use those, and will continue to be able to accept those until the tickets are no longer in distribution. The piece that's for approval here today, though, is that we are moving from a monthly pass to a 30-day pass. So that's where people are able to purchase a 30-day pass in the middle of a month. So we will no longer have like a March pass or an April pass that people would purchase. So the 30-day pass will allow them to be able to purchase at any point in the month and still be able to get the full 30 days. And so that's the active fares at some point or to revenue at some point because of the move to the 30-day pass. But we do see this as a benefit, and we do think that people will take advantage of being able to buy that 30-day pass, because even if it's at the end of the month, that makes it more of an incentive to still buy the 30-day pass instead of having a monthly pass. So that's actually the whole presentation that I have for you today. I'll talk a little bit more about UMO, though, as well. We have a dedicated engagement coordinator who's going to be up in Dawson Creek next week. And so she's going to be riding the buses, and she's going to be in key locations talking to customers about UMO, helping them download the app and let them know about this change. And so we're excited to be able to bring this new technology to Dawson Creek, and I'm happy to answer any questions that we have at this time.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. I will open it up to council here. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Lindsay. Very nice to meet you, and thank you for making the time to come speak with us. So it seems like the much more customer-oriented around some of the changes being implemented. I do have a couple questions with respect to, so is UMO a third-party company BC Transit is working with, or is it a subsidiary of BC Transit?
Yes, it's a third-party company that we are working with, yeah.
Okay. Secondly, I guess, are there any fees associated with card loading and usage above and beyond regular fare payment that people would be subject to?
No, the card it is free, and so anyone is able to pick one up and load onto that card, so there's no fee associated with that.
Okay. So then the implementation of this program, is it just the hope is that the added ridership will cover the costs, or is it something we should expect to absorb in our contract moving forward?
So there's some grant funding that is going towards this, and so there's not a huge increase. There'll be some marketing increases because of being able to let customers know about UMO, but there's not a huge increase in cost.
Okay, and I guess last question, with respect to the loading and I guess the now online component, who owns the data with respect to people's personal information? Is that BC Transit or UMO?
This is a great question, and I might have to get back to you on that one. I know that we've done a lot of pre-work behind this in terms of data and security and whatnot. So I can get back to you on that question, but I don't know exactly who is going to own that data. But I know that we've gone through several privacy impact assessments and whatnot to make sure that all of the data is going to be safe and secure.
Okay, and I guess from a big data standpoint, not necessarily needing personal private information, but with respect to ridership trends and what have you, how does this increase your ability to communicate logistics? Because one of the challenges we always have is in looking at usage and ridership and things like that is just drilling down into who's riding the buses, when are they riding the buses, how much of our ridership load is strictly students commuting to and from high school, and how much are other people who would like to use the bus more but can't because the routes aren't sufficient. So will this enable more insight into that?
Yeah, so we'll definitely be collecting some better data and to be able to use that in terms of our transit planning in Dawson Creek. I'm working with your staff. I know that there is some work going on behind the scenes in terms of figuring out who is those riders that would like to be taking the bus and potentially not taking the bus, and also who are those riders in terms of students versus non-students. So there is some work going on behind the scenes with that. But yes, UMO will certainly be able to play a role in providing some more data and insights on that.
Okay, thank you so much once again.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Anyone else? No, I don't think I had anything either, Lindsay. I just wanted to thank you. And I realize, I guess maybe I do have one thing. This is about the UMO fare policy changes. But are you involved with just this with BC Transit? Or I know your title on here says manager, so are you... I had some questions just our last presentation from BC Transit. There was some discussion about they were testing some on-demand BC Transit systems. So I was just wondering, like, if you knew anything about that, if you could speak to how those tests were going. And I think transit in our region is a bit of a struggle for our residents that use it. So yeah, we're curious about other options. So.
Certainly. And so, yes, we do have an on-demand pilot that is being launched actually in the next couple of weeks. And so actually this week in Kelowna. So we'll be collecting some, data and insights to be able to see how that performs and also how that works within our model. We do have a future phase 2, which Dawson Creek has expressed interest into. And so we are still analyzing who's going to be part of that phase 2. And really, we want to be able to look at different communities in terms of how that could be used. So I think Dawson Creek is well set up to be a part of a future pilot or part of a future phase of on-demand, especially when we start looking at, other communities that have expressed interest, such as Poughkeepsie and whatnot. So I think those conversations are happening. For now, it's understanding what that looks like in terms of our model, how this performs in terms of the pilot we have going on in Kelowna. So certainly more to come on this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for taking the time to meet with us today and to bring us up. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And yeah, look out again for our engagement coordinator in the next couple of weeks. She's going to be on the ground talking to customers, and we hope for a smooth transition into this. But people will still be able to use their existing products for the next 6 months. And so it will be, this is a point in time in terms of the introduction of this, but we certainly think there's going to be quite an uptake over the next little while.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
You bet. You too. Thank you. All right, I'm just going to call like a 5-minute recess here. 2024 back to order. I'm just going to vary the agenda and go to 3. So we have 3 2024 strategic priorities. 3.1 2024 strategic priorities. Kevin, I don't know, did you have...
Good morning, Your Worship. Staff's intent is at the next committee of the whole, we're going to bring a more wholesome update, kind of that first quarter update on the strategic priorities. But again, I did note on the agenda today that we have a number of items that are lining up with our strat priorities from the U18. If you look at the tourism, we've got OCP a little bit later. That's going to talk about, downtown tourism, infrastructure. And then we got some tenders that are really around asset management. So again, just it's always good to see that the items that council's dealing with are aligning with your strat priorities.
Yeah, I definitely see it with yourself and with the team too, that the focus is definitely on those. So thank you. All right, any questions? All right, next we have 4 late items. I don't think there's any late items, no. 5 new councillor business. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to note I did attend on behalf of the City of Dawson Creek the Child Care Task Force the week before last, and that was I think a quarterly or every couple month meeting that occurs to talk about the challenges around the provision of childcare in the city. And myself and MLA Bernier and the city planner were present to hear some feedback from childcare providers, both in the nonprofit sector and in the private sector, about what we could do to help them further facilitate the provision of childcare. So it's a really fulsome discussion and really great group of people to work with from School District 59, NLC, Northern Health, as I said, nonprofit childcare like KPAC and stuff like that. So yeah, making progress.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Earl. Thanks for attending. Any other, Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask Councillor the question, if I may, about the task force.
Okay.
Is Northern Health planning in one of its options planning sponsoring seats for healthcare workers? Did that come up at all?
Not in that exact terminology, but certainly they're looking to make exceptional considerations in order to secure childcare for nurses and doctors, right? That one of the, particularly for nursing, which is still a female-dominated profession, unless, especially if nurses are coming in from outside of the region, if they don't have a family support network and they start having children, getting childcare and the shifts they work are, graveyard 12 hours, it's not really conducive to a successful career in that field if you want to have a family. So it's something they're aware of, and I'm not going to speak on their behalf, but certainly their presence there was in part the result of understanding that that's one of the key pieces that needs to be addressed if they're going to be more successful.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Did you have something else?
Yes, so Mile Zero Park Society had its annual general meeting, and I was sick, so I was unable to attend, but Alex Shrechny will be continuing as president, and they have a very good executive, for sure, an outstanding group of people. One of the issues that just want to flag, and I guess it's something staff may be aware of, I'm not sure, is of course insurance of buildings. And there needs to be some engagement in that, because if certain buildings were to be destroyed by fire, it needs to be articulated whether we have any intention of replacing them or not. And if we don't, then why are we carrying insurance on them? Because some buildings are irreplaceable. Some buildings you can rebuild as replicas. So it's an interesting discussion. And from my perspective, I think Council may at some appropriate time want to share its perspective on some of the issues that might come up. But the President is going to be flagging that, and there needs to be some discussion between that group, the Historical Society, and the city, and insurance. It's a very interesting topic. That's all I'll say about it right now.
Yeah, okay, thank you. You want to talk to that, Kevin?
Yeah, just through your worship, just to that, Ryan and I have had a couple of conversations about insurance, specifically with MOPS and that, and so it's on our radar, and just we need to have a greater discussion about who insures them, whether it's us, whether it's them, all those aspects. So it is a conversation we're going to be having.
Thank you. Councillor Apollonio?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just letting you know that I attended the March 25 Southeast Historical Society meeting last month. And of course, the society is inviting everyone to attend on April 17th, their AGM. If you'd like to come, and of course, everybody is open to the public, and of course, entertaining new members. So that's it.
What time is it on April 17th?
2 o'clock.
12 o'clock?
At 2.
Oh, 2 o'clock?
2 at the KPAC.
Thanks, Councillor Apollonio. It's at KPAC in the basement?
It's in the archives, right?
Yeah, okay. All right, anything else? No? All right, next order of business 6, adoption of minutes. 6.1, we have minutes of the regular meeting of council with committee of the whole on March 25th, 2024 for adoption. Councillor Sudnick, second. Councillor Apollonio, I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Any business arising? Oh, all right. Next order of business is 8, correspondence. 8.1, we have letter from Ross Harcourt, Lobsterfest Committee, South Peace Oilmen's Association, received March 12th, 2024, regarding the 2024 Lobsterfest donation request. Maybe for the council, did we know what we did last year?
So through your worship, my understanding is there was a $200 financial contribution made.
Okay, so it wasn't like an order of like an auctioned item, it was just a cash donation?
That's what my understanding is.
Okay.
So I'm being corrected, through your worship. So my understanding is through recreational items, like for
Okay.
swim pass.
So a
whatever.
couple,
Sorry.
up to $200.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anybody like to, Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. I will move that we once again provide $200 in passes for city recreational amenities as part of the auction.
Perfect. Second, Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? No, I will call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 8.2, we have a letter from Paul Mendonca, Ribs Unlimited, March 18th, 2024. That's when we received it. Regarding a request for a beverage garden at the Dawson Creek Rib Fest, July 26th to 28th, 2024. I'll just quick update it, just as I had a conversation with a Rotary member on the weekend about this, because last year, when the Rib Fest was here, the Rotary Club applied for the beverage garden. So I was just kind of curious to why that changed. And the reason is just Ribs Unlimited is they just want to look after the start to finish when they come into each community, because they've had in some communities where liquor licensing wasn't done, so there was some struggles. So it was nothing against Rotary. Rotary is still going to be part of the program. It's just that they've now, Ribs Unlimited has taken over the whole process from start to finish when they're coming into communities. So if there was any thoughts or questions around that, I was just was one we were talking about. So anybody like to, Councillor Parslow?
I move we grant permission for the Ribfest Unlimited to serve alcohol at the upcoming Ribfest event.
A second. Councillor Kempf. Any discussion? No, I'll call this to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 8.3 of letter from grant writer, City of Dawson Creek, received on March 22nd, 2024, regarding a request for a resolution of support for a Rural Transit Solutions Fund grant. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move the resolution as requested that the City of Dawson Creek supports the grant application to the Rural Transit Solutions Fund through the Government of Canada for a grant of up to $50,000, which covers 71% of the on-demand transit feasibility study for the City of Dawson Creek project. Further, that the City of Dawson Creek commits to funding the remaining $20,000 of the project should this grant be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Second, Councillor McDonald. Any discussion?
other than to say it's not, it's, an ongoing bone of contention in the community around the usability of our public transit system. So if we can secure some resources to help find a better way forward, I'm all in favor of that.
Thank you. I guess, Kevin, just to you, I know this is just like a feasibility study, and we've had numerous conversations with some riders and, some people concerned in the community with the transit system. So will they be part of this feasibility study?
Yeah, so through your worship, you're right, we do have a couple of champions in the community, and I know Devin has reached out to them and will certainly see if they would like to be engaged in this process.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other discussion? No. All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 8.4, we have email from Jeffrey Weightman, Director, Ministry of Agriculture and Food, received on March 22nd, 2024, regarding an invitation to a presentation on land use planning for agriculture. I guess just before I open this to council, this was also brought up at the Peace River Regional District, and I think they've accepted that request, so it's also an option where anybody can attend there as well, but yeah. Councillor Parslow?
I move that we decline the invitation and attend the Regional District one if we're able to do that.
Okay. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick? Any discussion? Councillor Earl?
If I can rely on my colleague, Councillor Parslow, to take some detailed notes, I'm fine with that as I'm working on that day.
I'll do anything for you.
Thank you, buddy. In which case, I'll support his motion.
Okay. Any other discussion?
He's only 20. He's like an elephant, he never forgets.
All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Next, we have 8.5, email from Tom Pura, Communications and Public Relations, Grand Prairie and District Chamber of Commerce, received on March 27th, 2024, regarding an invitation to attend the 2024 Peace Region Energy Show, May 15th to the 16th in Grand Prairie. So I guess just before I put this out to council too, this is just about attending a Peace Energy trade show. It's not an ask to be in it or anything. It's just about attending. So, yeah. Councillor Earl?
Just a question before I look at a motion, just through you to staff if I could. Have we sent a representative to this event in the past that anyone's aware of? I'm sorry if we did. I apologize. I'm drawing a blank is all. And I don't
Through your worship, I'm not aware of it either. I don't recall.
Okay. Sorry. No. Okay. I guess I would move we receive this for information, and then if anyone on council wants to attend of their own volition, they can do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'll move we receive for information.
Okay. Councillor McDonald will second. Any discussion on receiving for information? All right, I will call that motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 8.6, letter from Jesse Kurjata, President, Dawson Creek Minor Hockey Association, and JuliAnne Sellmeyer, President, Mile Zero Figure Skating Club, received on April 8th, 2024, regarding summer ice request. I guess just over to staff, was some of this captured in the fees and structure that we went through? I remember there was some talk about this exact thing.
So through your worship, couple things. One, this is a fairly common request that we get. Second point is in the fees and charges, we made some adjustments to the price of this ice, but we haven't updated the ice allocation policy that speaks to when it goes in, the amount of hours and that. So I'll let maybe Ryan just give you a bit of an overview of it because he's been working on it more closely.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Hi, through your worship. Yes, so Kevin is correct. The first part was the pricing right? That was of all fees and charges, right? That you have passed or updating again. The second aspect is the actual allocation policy related to ice allocation or allocation as a whole. That is on our radar as the next step to go through. Last year, the minor hockey and figure skating came to you and asked to waive policy, both sides, the pricing as well as the actual allocation, the hours and stuff. And so they're just seeking, from my understanding, is for you to, they're happy with the fees and all that part is fine. It's the aspect of the actual allocation in terms of starting early. I think their time frame is starting on August 19th for them to skate. So they're seeking your approval for that.
Okay. Thank you. So will that be captured then when the policy for allocation comes?
So through your worship, those are things that we're going to work on. Obviously, if the groups are going to ask every year for a waiver of the policy so that they can come early, then those are discussions we're going to have with those groups to see if it makes sense. If that's going to be ongoing, then we could look to make some changes there.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move that we waive policy and grant this request to have the ice prepared for August 19th.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp, any discussion? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. So just, so with respect to, I understand that as we put the ice in and we've got the commitment from these two groups, we're also within our own organization going to promote additional ice hours to the community to try and defer some of the costs to taxpayers. With respect to last year, do we know how much above and beyond the budgeted amount we spent in order to provide additional ice?
Through your worship, so last year there was a total of 85.75 hours booked collectively between minor hockey, figure skating, senior Canucks, junior Canucks, and a couple of private commercial rentals. We have received some of the ice allocation requests from minor hockey and figure skating, so their commitments in terms of their times. With respect to the cost or the revenue, last year with your new ice, with the new fees and charges, you will actually generate more gross revenues due to the price that you've allocated as the prime time rate for the youth or adult, I think it is, pricing. So that has gone up, so you'll see more gross revenue that way. With respect to the costs, I don't have the specific actual dollar figures of it was. I know that it took us 11 days to put the ice in due to the nature of the season last year of getting it ready, and then subsequently the time that they used and booked those 86 hours or 85.75 hours.
All right. So, I mean, once again, as you were mentioning, if this is going to be typical moving forward, we'll start to get some metrics that we can.
And I think that the post-COVID, right, because that last year's the first summer, coming through with it. So I think that having another year of data will really help us understand and work with the user groups. But also, to your point, Councillor Earl, that once we know that if this is approved, that gives us an opportunity for perhaps summer programming or drop-in activities, et cetera, as well. So it gives us another opportunity to increase the usage of the ice while it's in.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Thanks, Ryan. Councillor Parson.
So what I've heard is that we don't know the net cost to the taxpayers when we accommodated this request last year. Is that correct?
Just 1 second. I might have that.
I'll wait with excitement.
I stand corrected, Councillor Earl. So last year, The cost to put the ice in, as I have it here for last year, was approximately $12,500 for 11 days to operate. And in the revenue that we generated for those 11 days last year was approximately $9,500. So almost a break even.
So my question was that this is an unbudgeted item, and that you feel confident that it will strike even. Is that correct?
I feel confident that based on the recovery models with it is that this meets and exceeds the policy of cost recovery of 50%. So you're at a break even. So this is actually doing better than what your policies have set forth with it. So it's almost a break even.
Yes, I forgot about those recovery models.
But I am confident that the more opportunity that we have to put this out there, it gives more opportunity to leverage the ice while it's in.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and one quick follow-up through you to staff. So the 11 days, that was on the back end of the summer, correct? The summer ice on the...
Well, it's the start of the summer season,
Yes.
so the summer ice, so that was starting whatever it was last year, end of August,
Okay.
August 19th-ish.
And we're not keeping
then-
it in additionally at the end of the winter season, or we do still?
So we have spring ice, which actually ended yesterday. Yesterday, and ended with the art on ice. So we had spring ice this past, and then as we look to next season, it would start off with this summer ice request, starting skating on the 19th, and then move into the regular ice season. I think it's right before the September long weekend,
Okay,
and
and
continues through.
Were we requested as well to extend for spring ice, or is that something we created in the policy?
Say that again, sorry.
The extension of the ice into April wasn't typical prior to a year ago, right? So summer ice or spring ice, I guess, would say an extra week or two on the back of the winter and an extra week or two prior to fall would be.
Yes,
kind
they're
of
independent
ice
policy
yes.
items, right? So right now, with respect to this is specific to the summer ice, and then as we look to change or look to update the allocation policy with respect to summer ice, regular season, and then for it'd be the spring of 2025, right, would be coming back to you at that point as well.
So the spring ice then is the costs presumably to put and keep the ice in are similar?
Very similar,
okay.
Yes.
I was sorry, the 11 days was messing with, because I had it in my head, summer ice to me is anything outside but I understand there's two separate designations. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. All right, any other discussion? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 8.7, we have a letter from Jack Walsh, General Manager, Dawson Creek Golf and Country Club, received on April 8th, 2024, regarding a request for a letter of support for NDIT Recreation Infrastructure Program Grant. Councillor Parslow.
I move that we support the grant application from the Dawson Creek Golf and Country Club to the NDIT.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Second, Councillor McDonald. Discussion, Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I guess I think I've articulated this reservation before when it comes to grants is, are we, by supporting or endorsing this particular grant, we're not going to find ourselves cannibalizing an available pool for our own projects or competing against ourselves in the future?
So through your worship, I do not believe so.
Okay, thank you.
No, I think I could speak a little bit to NDIT too. They have, this is a grant initiative that's put in place for different regions. And the region that we're in has yet to utilize their full contribution annually. So I think there's a lot of significant room there. And I think this is a nonprofit organization that's looking to go out and do something. And I believe we should support it. So, or I will. All right, I will call this motion. Oh, Councillor Parslow?
Well, I was going to say that one of the items that has come up is the unsightliness of the present netting and stuff. And so I was kind of excited that that is going to be taken care of. And the lighting will just add to the season. And I'm just pleased with the way things are going at the golf club, I must say, with Jack's leadership. The water retention system they've got, solving lots of problems. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of good things. It's nice. All right, any other discussion? Well, I'll call that motion to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Next item on the agenda is 9 reports. 9.1, we have report number 24-007 from the Human Resource Manager regarding additional RCMP support. Councillor Parslow.
I move the report number 24-007 from the Human Resource Manager re additional RCMP support be received for discussion.
Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. I guess just before I open this up, I just wanted to add a little bit to this because this was a report and a kind of a request put forward by us last summer with a lot of the, dialogue that we're seeing in our community, that we're hearing from residents, feeling from our, the teams within the city, the pressures. So we wanted to just kind of, at that point, reach out and just understand what it costs to add RCMP officer, bylaw officer, wellness officer. There's been a little bit that's changed since then that we've dealt with. So we've got a little bit more data that we've just going down like the RCMP route, for example, and, our meetings with Minister Farnworth and the Attorney General, Nikki Sharma, just about the rise in crime in our area and looking back out over the last 4 years. Just over the last 4 years, our crime rates have almost doubled in the Dawson Creek area, and our RCMP levels have not changed. I know we got a new staff sergeant doing a lot of great things, but I know this is something we don't need to make a decision on today, but I strongly feel that with dealing with the staff sergeant and everything, that we need to look at potentially adding RCMP officers. And whether that's a couple into our 2025 budget process, just understanding that, they might need that support, that I think we should start talking about that now and looking at that when it comes to the budgeting process, that one, if we were to add 2 RCMP officers, the cost, also what the cost is going to be to the taxpayers, because we're going to have to increase revenue to pay for that. So I think we just need to really understand that, and I think this is a great report with a lot of great information. But I know the staff sergeant is looking, is wanting some extra help. And the tough part about RCMPing is we can up the numbers, and even if we don't fill the positions, we don't pay for them, but we still got to budget it. So even if we up it a couple and it gets us closer to where we need to be, problem is we might not have to pay for all that, but we still have to budget it. So we're still going to have to look at where that revenue comes from. So if it is a direction of council or where we choose to go, whether we spend that money or not, we have to budget it. So we're going to have to know where it comes from. So that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I know we also, since this has came out, we did add a bylaw officer last fall. Which, I think has helped significantly. But that's only from what I see, but Kevin can maybe speak more to that. But I just wanted to kind of add that. I know this is just for discussion, but if I feel it's a good time to discuss, where we do want to go, so that so Kevin and everybody does kind of know getting into budget planning. So, that was my part. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. A couple of thoughts. I know of our current detachment, 6 of the officers are funded wholly by the province as a regional allocation. And I'm wondering, in your discussions with the Attorney General or the
other ministries, whether there's been any indication or appetite that they were willing to increase that allotment. Secondly, I'm wondering if staff, or we could maybe ask the staff sergeant next time he's in, to give us an overview of the RCMP's auxiliary program, which I don't know if it's available in this region. I have seen some information about it. I'm not sure how widespread it is, but essentially volunteers to do some kind of low risk, lower tier stuff that takes some of the time constraints and demands off the regular detachment, like special events, security, traffic control, things like that. So I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about it here locally, but the RCMP does advertise it through their website as an auxiliary program in BC. And then with your point towards adding to our allotment, essentially, because we're always running under capacity for what we budget, it essentially functions as forced savings, because at the end of the year, that revenue goes into general reserves, correct, Kevin? Yeah.
Yeah, through your worship, it was interesting to see the graph in the report of we've budgeted for the same amount of members over that 6 years, but we've spent less as time's gone on, mainly because of absences, leaves, and whatnot. So your question around the provincial members is something that the mayor and we did broach with Minister Farnworth about, it was really around, if we are going to get some additional members, is there an opportunity for them to be provincially funded? The comments that we received back is that they believe right now the most effective way to approach this is through their special task force, their special units, where they parachute groups in, gang units, whatever it might be, and they're finding those to be very effective throughout the province and efficient. So without saying no, that's essentially, what they were saying is that we hear what you're saying, but we believe this model over here is working better. And I think to some degree, I can't argue with that, is that they have been working. So that the auxiliary, I think we can certainly talk to Staff Sergeant about bringing some information on that. I'm not sure where that sits.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the capacity to train people for it in the region. Just one or two more before I have to excuse myself and pop over.
I just want to add something too, actually, to just our meeting with Minister Farnworth on their different organizations and groups that they have within the RCMP that they're sending up. But they said that a couple, they've had a new one too that they've initially recently used last year, which was up here, but that's all completely provincially funded. So when they're sending those different specialty units up here, but they've said that they've seen significant help. So that's where, that was basically the answers to that part. So, and then the auxiliary too, we did have, last time I reached out to the staff sergeant about that, is there was some, I think in some of a couple of the provinces, there was some things they were waiting to sort out with the auxiliary program. And last I heard, it wasn't up and running. So if it is now, that's definitely something we should bring up. So.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess, just one last note around the staffing piece. I recall in a very different time, in a previous council, we made note that we were consistently running under our allocation, and as a means of cost saving, because those 3 positions on average we were short of, were essentially being utilized as forced savings for general reserves, that money would be better spent elsewhere. So to now have not suggesting that again, but, when we floated the idea, and we ultimately decided not to go through with it, of reducing that allotment to reflect what we were actually getting in RCMP positions, the detachment, the North detachment out of Prince George, seemed to be very, very responsive and proactive for a time after that to make sure we were getting new recruits coming in to fill those vacancies. And I'm not sure if that's, now that they're no longer concerned we're going to reduce those positions, whether that sense of urgency is abated, but I do find it curious that we seem to be back where we started in 2018 with respect to soft and hard vacancies.
Yeah, through your worship, you know, I don't know if that's the case, but I do know that what I hear from Staff Sergeant is that there's appreciably less folks going through, you know, training and coming out of depot. And so there's a lot less graduates to go around. And many, if not all jurisdictions are in the same boat as we are. But saying that, we were fortunate to get, I think there was, you know, out of a few people that were available, Dawson Creek did get allocated one member, so that was positive based on, unfortunately, maybe, you know, what was happening and the visibility of what was going on in the community. So that was positive. But it's a struggle. You know, we hear that continually. So I don't think reducing the budget is, you know, not saying that that's what council wants to do, but I don't know that that actually, in this case, is going to get their attention to assist in that. I think with what the mayor's done with the different ministers, we've certainly made our voice heard with the province about the issues and our concerns and tried to be at the forefront of that. And so hopefully that will help with the allotment.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor L. Councillor Parcel.
Well, the present time, municipalities like Tumbler Ridge and Chetwynd continue to get fully funded for their police services. That is an issue that I think needs to be addressed and has been brought forward a lot, so that it would possibly provide more funding for larger communities to have improved levels of police service. So right now, Chetwynd pays $0 for policing. The notion is they should be paying at least what the city of Dawson Creek is paying. This is when I attended all the seminars on the revisions to the Police Act. And the idea is that then there'll be additional funding, either for emergent situations, right, or for just standard stuff. Right now, we pay 85% of the
70.
75? 70%. And when we hit 15,000, it gets to 90%. Now, if that figure that was presented to council, which caused Councillor Earl to get a little agitated about, of a 13,000, let's say close to 13,500, I must admit I dropped a little bit. If that was the real figure, we're getting kind of close to having to pay 90%, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, again, just another burden on budget. But I just want to add to what Councillor Earl stated when it was toyed by a previous council that because we always have some unfilled positions, we use that money for general surplus, and it was said we should reduce our number of RCMP because we never get what we want. That was a very negative message to our RCMP members and families. I just want to flag it. I would be dead against it. I was against it then, but it did pass, and it did. Was registered because these people can go pretty well where they want, right? Mm-hmm. After a few years of service, it's that whole issue of attracting and retaining people. And so, if this council was to entertain that, I just want to flag to you, it creates has negative repercussions, which accelerates people applying out and leaving. So I don't advise you doing that.
I agree with you. I guess to add another thing to that too as well, I think like our, I guess whatever our percentage rate of officers versus our number is higher than the Canadian average anyways. Like we're doing good in that department. And like Kevin said, we are getting a member and there's some talk of other ones coming too. So yeah, I agree. Thanks, Councillor Parcel. Any other discussion? Kevin, do you need anything? I guess one, too, just because with that number, we do have to budget and allocate. So, and then that extra at the end of the year, if those positions aren't filled, goes into general reserves. Is there a way that on the carryover budget, so say, for example, there's $200,000 left in that category of the RCMP, can it go, instead of going into general reserves, can it go to offset the next year's budget so that we're not putting as much stress, not putting as much stress right on the general taxpayers to look at increases, or can you do that?
So through your worship, that's something I think we'd have to take a look at and just see how that could work. And I was just thinking that, like you indicated, the council doesn't need to make a decision on this obviously today. But I think it's good for council to think about, and as we get closer to the beginning of the 25 budget in the fall, it might be a topic to bring forward and flush out a little bit more.
Yeah, and I guess another thing too is if council is wanting to look that way, is maybe we should find out sooner than later, like how much time like the RCMP needs. Like maybe they have to start their 2025 planning earlier. So if it was a direction we were wanting to go, like is there a benefit to them to know in June versus November?
Yeah, like so through your worship, we just did the allotment like in the last few weeks where we put in what the allotment is for the current year.
Oh, okay.
So if we made a decision in the 25 budget process, let's just say council decided, we would be able to ask for that increase in allotment in the spring of 25. Of course, that needs to be approved because there is a component that's funded there federally. And then I don't know how long that decision process takes and before you would actually start to realize on the ground, but those are things that we can get information on.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Just one further thing, auxiliary. I'd like to have a bit of an update on that, if possible, where that's at, because, again, this gets to be a bit of politics, bit of philosophy, but I forget which provincial government basically eliminated auxiliary RCMP forces, or whether it was a federal thing, I'm not sure. I'd like to find out what that was. I should know that, but I've forgotten it. But the big issue at the seminars at UNBC a few years ago was the whole issue of auxiliary members carrying firearms. And I haven't heard a thing about that for quite some time. I think there's a real value in having auxiliary RCMP. I would support it, but I do believe that they need to be armed, just like regular members. And for many people, that's a no-no. But I know a couple of guys here in town who were part of the auxiliary and left prior to it being disbanded over the arms issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? No. All right, I will call that, or did I already call that to vote? No? I'll call that motion to vote. I guess I should have before we were discussing. I was like, uh-oh. Tab gave me the look. I was like, I think it is pulled out. Yeah. We good? Okay, vote is closed, since carried. Next, we have report 9.2. our 9.2 report number 24-043 from the Development Service Manager regarding BCS PCA 2024 Animal Control Contract and next steps. I guess just before I open this up to any discussion, Kevin, did you want to give a little bit of update on maybe what the recommendation is here? And I think it's kind of been clear in the past where council stands on all this, but by going out to this process that you're suggesting, if you want to just give a bit of an update, might save some discussion.
Yep. So, through your worship, what staff is recommending is that we go to what is an RFI. Basically, it's a form of soliciting interest. It's non-binding. We go out and see if there is anybody that is able, qualified to provide animal control services. To date, we haven't been able to find anybody other than the BCS-BCA. We had, staff had made some calls, looked around, reached out, but this is kind of that last effort to try and publicly go out there and solicit to see if there's anybody within the, parameters that council's kind of indicated as far as budget. And so we want to go out and do that, see if there's anybody out there. If there is, then we could actually go through an RFP proposal, get more into the details of the level of service and all of that, and then see what we can get back for value.
Yeah.
Council had asked about changing the animal control bylaw, which we still have that, but we felt that it wasn't something that we needed to do at this moment, because if there is nobody to perform animal control services, then there's no need to spend a bunch of time updating a bylaw that nobody's going to enforce. So we want to go through this process first, and then if we get interested parties and get into the RFP process, that's when we can talk about the level of service, which is really what the bylaw is, and we can kind of work with that in concert. So.
And if we don't get any, then that's when we can have that discussion about what we do moving forward and what the bylaw is, what are those options, what are those different things.
Well, and so if we don't get any interest, the SPCA has indicated that at this point they're not interested in a lesser bylaw approach. They believe that goes against their values and ethics. That's fine. That's their opinion. And so then really we need to determine, and at some point, one of the alternatives or suggestions is that you could consult with the public and see what their expectations are on animal control.
Okay.
But if we don't get any interest, then essentially, unless we change what we're willing to offer, then it appears we're left without anybody to provide animal control services.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move the report number 24-043 from the Development Services Manager regarding BC SPCA 2024 Animal Control Contract and next steps be received. Further, the council directs staff to enter into a contract with the BC SPCA from June 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024 for a cost of $140,453.81. Further, the council directs staff to issue a request for information for animal control and kenneling services with a budget of $240,778 per year for 2025 onwards, and to present the findings at a future council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick. Go ahead.
I'd like to just speak to the report presented to us by our Development Services Manager. I thought it was a great report. I appreciate all the information of just what it's going to take staff, time, etc., to present this RFI. But again, as in our previous discussions, I just cannot justify increasing the cost to our taxpayers by $250,000 for animal control when we're discussing an increased RCMP. We just lost $500,000 in revenue. No fault to our own, no fault to BC Hydro, just the way it works. Everybody is being squeezed for every hard-earned dollar they make right now. And for us to have to do a tax increase for animal control or transit, all of it, it all adds up, right? And it's just not another expense that I can get behind putting on our taxpayers for animal control. I just can't do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Any other discussion, Councillor Parslow?
Well, in addition to what my colleague just said, and I understand the move, I'm a little concerned about it. So I'm fine with the first part of the motion that ends with 140,453.81. And I'm not saying I'm not going to support the second part, but trying to suppress my cynical side, we have been told by previous BCA staff that we had our bylaw was the envy of the province. We were doing things that they wished every municipality was doing. Simply, we can't afford this Cadillac service. I'm not going to add to what Councillor McDonald said so well, but I am a little puzzled about the process that is envisaged in the request for information. Are you going to be presenting in that initial request the service that we currently receive and seeing if there's interest about that? Because I don't think we can afford that level of service, period. And surely we should envisage the level of service that we actually want, the core of it, and not the non-core. For me, like dangerous animals is a core part. Absolutely. I don't know how far I go with the rest, and I don't know we as a council have. So, again, are we not inviting further problems by not first articulating the type of service we want? That's really the core of my question, Kevin.
So through your worship, the intent of the initial process, the RFI, is not to get into service levels, it's to identify if there's anybody interested in providing the service. If there is, then we get into the details of the service level, which when then we would talk about, what that looks like. And we've heard from council that we believe that the current bylaw is more than we wish to have. I don't know what that means in cost savings by altering that bylaw and reducing it down. One would assume that there's going to be some savings. But the first thing is just to see if there's anybody qualified out there that is qualified and able to do the work.
So what you've said, right, is that clearly enough expressed in the request for information? I mean, it needs to be. So anybody interested in this line of work, and we'll decide what the work is later, is what I've heard. That needs to be clearly conveyed, right? Because I wouldn't want people to go to an awful lot of work, right? Assuming that they're going to be doing exactly what the BCSBCA has been doing. It seems unfair if we're thinking that we want to change that a bit.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So through your worship, I mean, if you think of it in the terms of installing a water line or underground services, we're looking, is there anybody out there that can perform underground servicing We don't talk about how long the water line is, how big it is, or any of that. First off, are you qualified to do that? Yes, you are. Okay, and then we can get into the details of much the same as this. Are you qualified, able to perform, the service? If you are, then we'll talk about what that level of service is, how big that service is, and scope. That's our intent.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. All right, I am just going to call a break. We have a next item at 11:15, so we'll come back just prior to that. Back to order. Our next order of business was 2.6. We have Katrin Saxty, planning consultant, and Kathryn Rutherford, community planner with urban systems, and Savonnaé Street, with city planner of the city of Dawson Creek in attendance regarding the official community plan update. So welcome, ladies. You just push your button there on the, I will turn it on. So, once it's green, it's good. Yeah, so it's all yours. So welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Savonnaé Street, and I have the privilege of being the city planner for the city of Dawson Creek. I'm joined by Katrin Saxty. She's a community planner with Urban Systems out of Fort St. John, and she's been working with Urban for the past 23 years and with the city of Dawson Creek for the past 20 years. So, of course, the Peace Region is her home. And we're joined by Kathryn Rutherford, born and raised outside of Fort St. John. Having gone away to school, she returned home to Fort St. John to start the beginning of her career with Urban. And together we'll be working alongside the community, of course, to review and update the City of Dawson Creek official community plan.
Excellent.
Our purpose today is just to take a little bit of your time to kind of work through this agenda here. The first thing that we want to start off this process and this presentation with is a bit of a framework to ensure that we're all coming to this from the same level of understanding. The approach that we'll be taking to review the official community plan for the city of Dawson Creek, I just want to make sure that it's clear that this is an update of the plan that already exists. So it will not be an overhaul. We'll just be updating the policies and objectives that are currently in the OCP. We'll jump into what exactly is an official community plan. What are the pieces of legislation that guide the development of the OCP? And how does a lot of the new housing legislation that's been unveiled by the province, how does that actually fit in to the official community plan update? And then finishing off with the implementation. How do we implement the OCP and ensure that everyone is involved in that process? We're right at the end of phase 1, jumping into phase 2, our visioning engagement, which we will go through with council. Today we'll begin with council. In February, we kicked off the first part of the process, the project startup. And to date, we've had our startup meeting with city staff, with Urban. We're currently undertaking internal engagement with various city departments for the OCP. A communications and engagement plan has been developed. We have the landing page for the OCP that's currently live. And that has our story map website, a lot of the content around the OCP, frequently asked questions, a primer on the OCP, and just a lot of the visioning and engagement that you'll see happening over the course of the next year. Phase 3 is where we do the bulk of this writing work that Urban will be assisting the city with, looking at what we've heard from phase 2, our visioning and engagement, and taking an opportunity to actually reconnect with the community and seeing what the initial engagement that we've started off with is actually meeting the targets, see if we've got it right, if there needs to be more clarity. And we'll also have staff and council workshops and send the OCP off for legal review within that phase 3. And from that, we refine that draft OCP. In phase 4, which is engagement on the draft, we'll sit down with the community, show them where we're at, where that initial input that we took from them has been integrated into the plan, and what that means for Dawson Creek's future. And the project team here at the city will update council on this final draft and get any insights that have come out of the final engagement and legal review. And phase 5, the approval phase, will be the formal approval process where the official community plan gets adopted as a bylaw. I'm really looking forward to 2025 and that approval phase after all this hard work that we'll put in together. Now to the review and update. One big question that a lot of community members are probably asking council and city staff is, why are we doing this? In the past, it's usually best practice to review the official community plan every 5 to 10 years, just so we can have a pulse on what's going on in the community, and that can be integrated into the official community plan. And I think the timing right now is very ideal with when we're doing this review. The OCP that we currently have was created 7 years ago in 2017, and it was adopted in 2018. And since then, there have been many changes within our world, just socially, and even into a lot of the legislation that we're now governed by. The first thing that I'm going to mention is the pandemic. That changed a lot of our values and perspectives, and I'm sure that will come out in the OCP and when we go into engagement. The Agricultural Land Commission Act, housing needs assessments, the Parks and Rec Master Plan that we did for the city, lots of demographic changes that have changed in the city, and just continuing to build the community that has already been established here. You'll see our slogan at the bottom of this slide here, stable roots, vibrant future. We want to acknowledge that we have those stable roots that have been built in the community, and we're pushing that forward with this vibrant future outlook with the OCP. And last but not least, the housing legislation that came out last year from the province. Moving forward, we'll be required to actually update this plan every 5 years in order to align with housing needs assessments and ensure that we have adequate housing for the residents of our community. And this update that we'll be doing every 5 years that we're now required to do by the province will reconfirm our community's path forward. I don't see it changing dramatically, but we never know. It'll reflect the future legislative changes that come out in the province and reflect a lot of updated studies and data that we'll continue to do in other departments and amend any mapping if necessary. The official community plan is a big document. It provides a long-term vision that guides our decision-making and should be a roadmap for the community. And it's our highest level policy document that the city has. It's legislated by the Local Government Act. And through this document, it should be future-oriented. And though it is visionary, we still have to temper that with some realism. It has to be financially feasible. It has to be sustainable. But it allows us to ask these big questions around what do we want to see for the future of our community, and how are we going to get there? What does the roadmap look like to achieve these big goals? So now I'll turn it over to Katrin to talk a little bit more about the Local Government Act and what sections make up the OCP.
Thank you, Savonnaé, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again. I always end up talking about legislation. I'm not sure why that is. One thing I'll just start off with, and building off of something that Savonnaé said, is the official community plan. Yes, it is a hefty document, but it is meant to be aspirational and future-oriented. It doesn't reflect the Dawson Creek today. Its goal is always to reflect the Dawson Creek we want to become. That is different from one of the other main planning documents that we deal a lot with, which is the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw is a snapshot of what is on the ground today. So one is, this is where we're trying to get to, and that is the official community plan. With the official community plan, it has a vision statement, it has goals, and ideally, you're always striving for it. You're never going to actually get to that vision, otherwise it's not enough of a stretch, right? But it really is about what is it we want, what kind of a community do we want to create for our children, our grandchildren? What's the legacy we want to leave behind? What is it that Dawson Creek needs to have so that our kids want to come back to this community if they go away for school or to stay here, right? How do we keep people here? How do we create that kind of a community? So the official community plan, as Savonnaé said, there are a number of sections that guide this. This isn't something we just kind of make up. We are directed by the province. Every local government in BC is required to have an official community plan. In the past, you would just kind of update it whenever it was needed. As Savonnaé said, best practice is to look at it and go, is this still relevant every 5 to 10 years? With the provincial legislation that came out last year, now we do have to look at it every 5 years after this update. It really is intended to provide objectives and policies for the city to evaluate all of your big decisions on, particularly those related to land use and to growth management. So why are we doing this? Does it align with the long-term vision set out in the official community plan? Is this what the community has indicated is important to them? And it really helps. It's like another filter for council and staff to consider all of your big decisions on. And so that is something that's a really important piece of this, similar to your strategic plan, right? You're using that as a tool to evaluate the things that you want to move forward on. And this really sort of articulates that long-term kind of roadmap. Here's where we want to be in 2045. And that's the whole lens that this entire document and process is built around. What does Dawson Creek look like in 2045? What kind of a community would we like to have? The Local Government Act stipulates a variety of content that this plan has to have. And so in the past, an official community plan was very much focused on land use. Where are we going to have residential? Where do we want commercial? Where do we want, roads, sewer, water systems, public facilities? Where do we want these things on the land? And that was always the main component of an official community plan for many, many years. We needed to identify if there was hazardous or environmentally sensitive areas, if we had aggregate deposits within our boundaries, which we don't. And then over time, the legislation has changed, right? In 2007, we had to now include greenhouse gas emissions targets. In 2023, we need to make sure, and now in 2024, that we are speaking to all the housing legislation and how that may impact the city. So what is required does evolve over time. So these are the things currently that the legislation says we have to address in our OCP. Thank you. Section 474 of the Local Government Act also stipulates or lays out a number of other things that a community can include, but you don't have to. And one of the things that we have found over the years is that more and more of what, creates a community, it's this stuff. It's the softer things, right? Social needs, social well-being, a regional context statement, not something that applies yet here in the Peace River Regional District and in Dawson Creek, something we may need to consider as we go forward because we know that the Regional District is working on their regional growth strategy. We need to speak to agriculture uses. This has been probably one of the bigger changes that's happened since this OCP was adopted in 2018 was the Agriculture Land Commission Act did some significant changes strengthening their legislation, which we will have to reflect that in this updated official community plan. Preservation, protection, restoration, enhancement of the natural environment are also things. So there's also things in here with respect to economic development. Again, it's not specifically related to land use, but it's something really important to the kind of community we have. So there's many things in the OCP that are things that help create a community that aren't land use related. When the OCP is drafted, one of the requirements is that it has to provide one or more opportunities for consultation. So part of that is done through the approval process, through public hearing, but we always want to go in above and beyond, right? So we do have quite a robust engagement strategy plan for this to really connect with the community. We did this back in 2017 as well, and we had tremendous turnout from the community, so we're really hoping for the same. This isn't a document that reflects the needs of 20 people. It really is intended to reflect the community's desires and aspirations, and as Savonnaé so well put, we have to temper it, our role as council, as staff, as professionals, temper it with that realism about where you can work within, right? We can't do everything that everybody wishes as much as we would love to. So what makes sense for Dawson Creek? What makes sense in 2045? So we have quite a robust engagement strategy. And the other thing that's really important to note is for any official community plan that affects agriculture land or land within the agriculture land reserve, which the city of Dawson Creek does have, we have to connect with the Agriculture Land Commission. They actually have to basically sign off on this plan. So not every community has agriculture land within them, so they don't have to. We do have to connect with them, and so we'll be engaging with them early on in the process to see what they might require. One of the other really great tools that the official community plan provides is Section 488 in the Local Government Act, and this talks about development permit areas. So this is one of those, again, I'll say optional things. You may designate development permit areas. Development permit areas are those areas where the local government wants to have a little bit more say and influence in what's happening. You really don't have the ability to say, your house should be this color, or we want more landscaping. That's quite limited in the role of a local government. However, through development permit areas, they are guidelines that are developed, and depending on where development occurs and what is important to the city may impose guidelines to help create the kind of community that you want to see. So for example, a common one that is often in place is multiple family development. So apartments, for example, right? We want them to look nice, we want them to be appealing, and the development permit areas allow us to ask for more landscaping, ask for more green spaces, have them, look like nice places to live where people want to actually come to. There's no other tools that really allow that. So that's one of the important aspects. The other one too is if you're in a hazardous area, say something that's prone to flooding, for example, before you can build there, if you are within this area, there are some extra things that you as the applicant might need to do before the city will consider an application. So it gives you some extra teeth that you normally don't have. And so they're really, really important. The Local Government Act actually stipulates a whole host of ways that are development permit areas for a variety of things: the natural environment, hazardous conditions, protection of farming, revitalization of an area, form and character of development, so what something looks like. And you can do that for residential, commercial, industrial, or multifamily. Energy conservation, water conservation, reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and which development permit areas any community chooses to implement, it just depends on the community. Some have none, some have lots of development permit areas. And one of the things that we wanted to just highlight is that you do have development permit areas right now for your commercial area, the downtown core, your multiple family developments, intensive residential, and natural hazards. We just wanted to show, because of the development permit areas, you've got some really great new construction in the city of Dawson Creek, which, I think staff feels quite strongly wouldn't maybe have been built to this kind of a standard without those tools available to the city. So yeah, just a few examples of the impact that having good development permit areas can have in the city. Are there any questions so far? That was a whole bunch of legislation.
Councillor Parslow.
Does the clean, I may have the wrong title for it, one that's causing a lot of upheaval, at least in this area, Clean BC, all that legislation, does that impact our official community plan?
I don't know, but we will look into it and make sure.
You know the one I'm referring to?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do,
okay.
yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
controversial, yeah. And how much import does the climate change forecasting for our region play in this community planning?
You know, and I think, thank you for those questions. One of the things with respect to climate change forecasting, and one of the things that we're going to hope to get out of, the community is like, how important is this? How much? Like, there's lots of legislation out there. What is key and critical for Dawson Creek, right? There are the things that we are required to do. How far, when we look forward to 2045, how we could write one policy, we could write 15 policies, right? So how does this fall in terms of the community's priorities? So that's some of the questions we'll be asking.
So, I mean, without trying to be a little aloof about this, the vast majority of this population will not know about so many of these things through no fault of their own necessarily, but they need to be engaged and informed somehow.
Yep. And some of that will be through our conversations with them. Some of that will be, there's things that we may choose to put in here because they need to be in here, right? So it's a bit of a balancing of the desires of the community with what the city feels is important and where we need to go. So we are trying to bring a variety of perspectives together to make sure that we have a plan that just meets all of the needs for 2045.
Yeah, like one example is storm water systems. I mean, given what is forecast and unraveling, the average person will not even know all about that. So I get concerned about, I definitely believe in engagement, but, how do you get people's attention to these things?
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you both. It's good to see you. With respect to development permitted areas, you mentioned it gives us some teeth with respect to revitalization of an area. And I was hoping you could expand on that because one of my hobby horses here is my ongoing frustration with the number of brownfield sites in the community that were previously, or essentially sterilized because of environmental concerns that aren't economical to redevelop, so they just sit in our downtown core or on the edges of the downtown core and become kind of a stain on the community. They're, just not appealing, and it undermines our ability to diversify our economy now. I understand, the past is the past, and there's not much we can do about the existing sites. But what does the development permit, what teeth does it provide us with to ensure we don't end up in this situation with even more sites moving forward? Can we, similar to something like an oil and gas commission where people have to pay into a fund to remediate a site when it reaches at the end of its life cycle? Do we have that capacity, or is it more limited than that?
Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking on the spot here on that one, especially for the revitalization. And there was a few, I think, questions packaged in that one. One is the brownfield one, and that is a very tricky one for us to deal with here in the north. And I see this across all of our communities because most of those brownfield sites are privately owned, and there is very little that we can do. I know in the past there was programs to help remediate brownfields, but at the end of the day, it is ultimately up to the remediating any brownfield site is a huge undertaking, depending on the level of contamination potentially. So it's not one a lot of municipalities get too involved in. So unfortunately, at this point, and I don't know if there are more grants out there these days. The last time we looked, there wasn't a lot available to really help incentivize that. The other piece is many of those are vacant. So it's a big cost to a landowner when having it vacant sometimes is the best course of action for them personally, right? So you guys currently don't have any remediation development permit areas. I think part of it is making sure that, should you consider this in the future, that you do have the tools there to require things. And some of it comes not just through the OCP and the development permit areas, but also your various other bylaws that you have in place that really help implement the direction set in the plan. So requiring, additional elements for development that reduce the risk of contamination, for example, right?
Okay, so it's, kind of obviously, I'm aware there's a lot. Basically, we need to be much more effective at lobbying the provincial government to take it seriously, because it is, it becomes kind of a negative feedback loop for us economically. As these sites can't be developed. Property prices stay depressed. There's no rationale for redeveloping if property prices are low. And it undermines the visual appeal of communities, so the ability to attract residents and by extension businesses. And it just kind of compounds and compounds and compounds. And as you've noted, there's very little appetite from our counterparts at the federal and provincial government to help rural Canadians deal with it. But my question was more, looking forward, do we have the tools to prevent this from happening more? I mean, we had, in the event, there's a fire in a commercial business, burns to the ground. That land, depending on what business they were in, may now have environmental contamination issues. And we've got no recourse for addressing it. So now we've got another sterilized piece of what would be prime land in the community that's just vacant and an eyesore.
Yeah, the one thing, if I may add, though, is I will say that the environmental legislation has changed quite a bit. Like a lot of, I think, the brownfield sites that we see are leftovers from years ago, right? I can think of many that have been vacant as long as I've been up in the Peace Country. So, 20, 30, 40 years ago, the legislative requirements were quite different than what they are today. Now, I don't know those environmental legislative requirements quite the same way I know the Local Government Act. But again, I think, there's a lot more stringent requirements today than there was back then that resulted in some of what we see today.
Okay. And I guess one last point, not so much a question, just to commend you on the emphasis of realistic expectations. I know one of my concerns with these kind of documents that are very broad in scope is they have a tendency, especially in the visioning part of it, to become this, let's try and be everything to everyone at all times. And as a result, it doesn't actually give anyone any specific direction. So I guess my one big piece of feedback going into this process is to try and avoid that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Who else?
Okay. You want to? Okay.
So the official community plan and its decision-making is a really important piece of this process for us all to understand. The OCP is a bylaw that is adopted by council, and when it comes to decision-making, the official community plan policies that are established are there to help council make decisions about land use, about growth, about development. And the OCP itself is consulted when evaluating these development applications that come in. So as Katrin mentioned about our development permit areas, when an application comes into the Development Services Department, the OCP and our zoning bylaw, depending on the scope of the application, is used to consider how the application considers against the policies and objectives that are currently in the OCP. In terms of implementation, there are kind of 4 key areas that I want us to focus on. The first is determining priorities and roles. The second is the zoning and other bylaws, municipal bylaws and policies, and monitoring and evaluation. Implementing a plan like the OCP is a big course of work. There's a lot of little actions that come together to determine and to actually create the big and long-term vision. And I just want to be frank with everyone, it's impossible to have all these policies that are in the OCP actioned in 5 years. It's challenging to take this large document and actually get every single point done over the 5-year period. But it's all about selecting priorities in the short term that fit into this bigger context of the vision that we're creating for the community. A lot of the resources that are used to actually action a lot of these objectives come from time funding, staff involvement, consultants like Katrin and Kathryn, community engagement from the residents who live in the city of Dawson Creek, any physical resources that we can take in as a city through land acquisition. And when priorities are determined in the OCP, it's important to have all departments in the city come together in coordination to ensure that they fit into the existing responsibilities and duties of each department, and that also the community is aware that they have a responsibility as part of this OCP. They've come in and been able to comment, and a lot of the policies that we see even currently speak to things like community gardens and a lot of social well-being pieces that can be actioned by community residents and other local organizations that work towards building a better Dawson Creek. In terms of the municipal bylaws and policies, implementing the initiatives from an OCP requires sometimes some changes to the local bylaws and policies that we currently have. And being able to incorporate a lot of those things from the master plans that are done in other departments into the OCP adds strength, because you can use those points and policies in the OCP to seek grant funding and to push forward a lot of the objectives that other departments have. And that third piece that focuses on zoning, the zoning bylaw, as we talked about, is our tool on the ground in an everyday sense. And it's one of the main tools to implement a lot of the policy directives that we see in the OCP. This can be connected to rezoning a parcel to match the land use designation or changing regulations to achieve OCP policies, enabling a more diverse use of and mix of uses when we're creating incentives for things like infill development or urban agriculture. And the best practice usually is to launch an update of a zoning bylaw following adopting the OCP, which we'll be doing next year when the OCP is adopted. And that fourth piece about monitoring and evaluating is my favorite part because it allows us to see where are we actually being successful. A lot of the policies that we have, as mentioned by some of the councillors, are broad, and they look to this very long-term vision that won't be adopted in 5 years. What are the short pieces that we can put together in a monitoring and evaluation plan within the OCP to make sure that we're being successful? And I think now with a lot of the changes that have happened through the provincial government and their legislation, we can think a little bit bigger about how we want to monitor and evaluate this plan when it comes up for review every 5 years. Council is very critical to implementing the OCP. The OCP, the official community plan, is Council's roadmap. It determines what things are important to implement each year. Budgets can be set in terms of the direction of the OCP. For example, if revitalizing downtown is an important part of Council's objectives, resources should be allocated to do those kinds of things and make sure that it's consistent with the policies that are in the OCP. Implementation of this kind of a report, as I mentioned before, and bylaw takes time, but there are little steps that we can do incrementally to meet the requirements of the OCP and ensure that a lot of the work we do falls in line with the bylaw. And one thing I want to mention that would be interesting to see moving forward is using the OCP as a benchmark in the annual report that council has, because it is that roadmap that's supposed to set the direction for a lot of the goals and plans that we have here in the city. Council is accountable for the implementation of this OCP, but it is important to consider and that it's clear that this should also reflect the community's vision and their aspirations. And just in closing, the OCP update that we're starting to engage on is a really exciting thing. It's not a full overhaul of what we already have, but just an update and a review to the policies, the great policies that already exist. Thank you so much for your time. Are there any questions or comments at all?
Perfect. Thank you both very much for coming in and presenting. I'm looking forward to this process. As it's there's some new members that sit on the side, so I appreciate all the information to learn about this. And I know in my short time sitting in council, you hear about the OCP lots, so I'm looking forward to going down that process and understanding it more and in depth. And you mentioned lots about community engagement, and that's important to us, is that this is a document. I know that council has input on it, but is driven by our community and where our community sees it going, because that's why we're here, and that's what it's about, is community. So I appreciate that. So thank you. I'll open it up to council. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just with respect to I guess work we've already done as a council around our strategic planning and how that complements or feeds into the OCP. Is that where in the process does that appear, or is it something that's taken into account? I'm just thinking, the infrastructure and asset management, right? Tangible capital asset management plan, which we're going to get a peek at next year, I believe, is going to inform a lot of the spending decisions we make moving forward, and the kind of community we can realistically afford to plan for. So where does that exist in the input funnel, I guess?
I'll add a little bit, and maybe Katrin. So theoretically, your strategic plan would be driven following the OCP.
So we did it backwards.
But that's inevitable. You're always going to have these processes that come up. Every new council is going to come in. They're going to have their strat plan, and then we might have a OCP update, just like we're doing. That's going to happen. What it does is the strat plan gives some insight to likely what we're going to see within the OCP from a council perspective, right? What's important? What are those initiatives? What are those things? So I guess in that sense, it's helpful that it does give us a bit of a preview from, we can assume where council is coming from. But Katrin, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you. I think the only thing I would add is, I think your CAO has nailed it, but it really is a collaborative process, and there's lots of back and forth, and we'll look to your strategic plan to help inform some of this. And I think the next time you update your strategic plan, you will look at the OCP that might inform some of what goes into your strategic plan. So as with anything planning, nothing really is done in kind of isolation, and it would be great if there was a linear path, but there's just not. So I think the big thing is that we're all connecting and communicating back and forth and considering all of the various inputs that help guide our work.
Just to add on to that, a lot of what's in the strategic plan currently does align a lot with the OCP that we currently have. You mentioned the asset management plan. That's actually a policy that's in the OCP, right? So a lot of the things that council is working towards do align with what the OCP policies that are included right now.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parslow.
Well, this is at least my third go around with this. And I know that you and the team went to extraordinary lengths last time, 2017. to engage the community. And I commend you for the efforts, I really do. The results, however, I don't know. I'd like a refresher on that. Not now, but my impression was, there was overall very little, although a sterling effort was made to engage, right? So I'm interested at a future time to see the plan and to maybe with fellow councillors, staff, brainstorm some maybe ways. What worked last time? How was success determined, right? What can we do differently, right? Everyone's got an opinion, right? But it needs to be heard, but it needs to be informed as well. And that's an onerous task. I mean, but it's very, very important. What I also want to sort of get a handle on what do we determine as being, how do we sort what are the priorities? I remember, and maybe my memory, given my age, is a little faulty, but I remember there was a little bit of celebration that there was quite a few people were in favor of da-da-da-da. And I asked, I don't know if it was you or Edward or somebody else, well, how many people indicated they supported that? And it was 18. And so my concern is that the voices of a few can get an awful lot of amplification through this process, but in no way does it represent the views of the community. And my colleague, Councillor Earle, always reminds me of the community engagement that I led as it relates to the multiplex. And we engaged with, I think it was 22 distinct community groups. And I was kind of naive about this, and I really wish I knew people better at that time than I now know, because really it was maybe 700 people were counted, but I bet you quite a lot of those people attended multiple meetings. And so you get distortion. And so I've always been on guard about that since that experience. So I'd like to see the plan for engagement, not through any criticism of last, because I really do think you went to extraordinary lengths, right? But it's a quest, right? It's a problem that many communities have, and we have it in spades. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Barslow. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you for coming in and presenting, and we look forward to the process. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think I will call break for lunch. We're going into closed right after. Yeah, so we'll, for those that are out there, to the public in here and viewing, we'll be back in probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock, I would think. So to the regular council meeting. So thank you. Floor back to order. Just to confirm to the public, we moved into closed for the purpose of resolution to move into the meeting of council closed to the public. Agenda item 2.1 and 4.1, section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal services that are at their preliminary stages. It was motioned by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Sudnick. It was passed all in favor at 12:41. And now we will go back to the agenda. Our next item on the agenda was 9.3. We have report number 24-045 from the Department Services Manager regarding 721 15th Avenue remedial action. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move the report number 24-045 from the Development Services Manager regarding 720 115th Avenue remedial action be received. Further, that whereas the Council of the City of Dawson Creek has considered the condition of the single-family dwelling shown in photographs attached as Schedule A in report number 24-045 regarding 720 115th Avenue, remedial action dated April 15th, 2024, and legally described as PID 007-865-392 and 007-865-368, Lot 6 and 7, Block of 1 Section 11 Township 78 Range 15, west of the 6th Meridian, Peace River Plan 7219, hereinafter called the property, is in and creates an unsafe condition, a danger, and a health and life safety hazard to the public. Now, therefore, pursuant to sections 72 and 73 of the Community Charter, the Council of the City of Dawson Creek in the regular meeting of Council assembled resolves as follows. 1, that having received report number 24-045 regarding 720 115th Avenue remedial action and the photographs attached as Schedule A to this report to Council and dated April 15th, 2024, and all other information before Council at this meeting, Council finds under Section 73 2A of the Community Charter that the single-family dwelling on the property is in and creates an unsafe condition. 2, that Council requires the registered owner of the property to remove the single-family dwelling in its entirety, the foundation, cap water, and sanitary services 300 millimeters from the property line, and backfill the excavation to 98% compaction. 3, that Council also requires the registered owner of the property to cause the said lands to be left in a safe condition after the single-family dwelling is removed. 4, that the registered owner of the property may request reconsideration by Council, which is 14 days from personal service or registered mail of remedial action requirement as provided under Section 78 of the Community Charter. 5, that the registered owner of the property must fulfill the requirements in this resolution by the date that is 30 days after notice of this resolution as provided under Section 76 of the Community Charter. 6, that if the registered owner of the property has not complied with his remedial action requirement within the time specified in Section 5, the City of Dawson Creek, by its staff, agents, and contractors, may enter onto the property and perform the work specified in this resolution. A, the cost of performing the work shall immediately become a debt owed by the owner of the property to the City of Dawson Creek. B, and such debt, if unpaid by December 31st, 2024, of the year in which it is invoiced, be added to the taxes for the property pursuant to Section 258 of the Community Charter. And 7, the Council directs City staff to provide notice of this remedial action requirement in accordance with Section 77 of the Community Charter, including, as required, the possibility that if the requirements are not fulfilled, the municipality may take action in accordance with Section 17 of the Community Charter at the expense of the person subject to the requirement.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick? Any discussion? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, we have 9.4, report number 24-046 from the Capital Project Manager regarding invitation to tender 2024-18 Capital Roadworks, 109 Avenue, 15th Street to 17th Street. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship.
Oh, just one sec.
There you go. Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 24-046 from the Capital Projects Manager regarding Capital Roadworks 109th Avenue, 15th Street to 17th Street be received. Further, that Council award the invitation to tender Capital Roadworks 109th Avenue, 15th Street to 17th Street to Parallel Projects Incorporated for the tendered price of $1,507,911.87 plus applicable taxes.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Second, Councillor McDonald. Any discussion?
No, I'm good.
All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next 10 bylaws. We have 10.1, 2024-2028 Financial Plan Bylaw number 4578, 2024 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Sudnick, second. Councillor Apollonio, I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. One opposed. Councillor Parslow opposed. 10.2, we have report number 24-042 from the corporate officer regarding fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4579, 2024 for consideration of first three readings. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the report number 24-042 from the corporate officer regarding fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4579, 2024 be received. Further, the council give first three readings to fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4579, 2024, which includes a 30-day pass for BC Transit, a $500 camping fee for city facilities, and updated language to prime time bookings.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Second, Councillor Sudnick. Any discussion? No, I will call that motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. I learned that a while ago, and I still do it. Next order of business, 11 Mayor's Business, 11.1 Mayor's updates. A couple things. One, went to Flavors 8. It was about a week and a half ago. Jeanette and her team put on an event for Filipino Restaurant Month in Canada. So it's pretty amazing, actually. This is their third year doing it. But they brought out it was pretty amazing food they brought out. There was a bunch of, community members, leaders in there. Just a great venue, another great organization in our community. The Filipino community itself is a big part of our community. We appreciate that, and we're all in this together. So it's all of us. So I'm not excluding that, but it was a great event. Great to be there. The food was amazing, but also just the importance of the community and just for the Filipino community really, and that they're recognized nationally in the restaurant industry, and that Jeanette has been part of it for 3 years, and I think she said that there was I can't remember 68 or 69 separate restaurants that were all part of the days in the month. So it was just great to see, and just a huge thank you to Jeanette and her chef and the whole team down there, and to everybody that attended. So Peace Arts Festival, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I did attend one of their meetings. Just they went through their agenda for the event, and I just really sat in and listened to what they had planned for the week. I think it's changing as it goes and as more artists come on, but just another great initiative for our community, and really looking forward to the event. That was good. KPAC Childcare. We had a meeting a few weeks ago with KPAC just in regards to childcare, and we've had lots of meetings. Councillor Earl spoke earlier about one that he was at. We've met with YMCA, just really about there's a need for childcare in our community, and just really exploring every avenue and how we grow that and be part of it. So Dawson Creek Sportsman Club had their annual gun and sportsman show last weekend, so I was in there. It was just wanted to thank them for the event and really what they put on. It was well attended. I went in Saturday morning, and it was like shoulder to shoulder people from all over the region. So just really wanted to give a shout out to them, that organization, for putting it on, to all the vendors that were there, and to all everybody that attended it and supported it, and to the event center for putting it on as well. So yeah, just an amazing event, well attended. I can't remember the numbers. I think I did hear the numbers, but it was not quite as busy as last year, but still busier than pre-COVID. So still a huge thing, and it's about 3,500 that went through. So
That doesn't count the kids who don't pay.
yeah,
It's just.
yeah, that would be just the paid ticket. So yeah, I felt like there was 3,500 people in there while I was in there. So, but no, it was really good. And then also I want to give a shout out to the Dawson Creek and District Chamber of Commerce for the mixer that they've been doing. We hosted one actually upstairs here, where we had our team from the city, Chelsey, Stacy, Megan, and was it Ray? Sorry, Kayla, that came in and put on a presentation just about our whole water infrastructure, like right from where it comes from Bear Hole Lake to right to the tap. So it was amazing. There was probably 30 people in here, the most you could have up here. But it was well attended. It was a really good feel. There was lots of different business owners in the community. And those ladies put just an unbelievable presentation together. The time they took to put into that presentation was just amazing, and they answered questions, and I felt like it was very informative, and people got a lot out of it. So I just wanted to give a thank you to the city team, and also to Melissa, our communications manager, because she doesn't like taking credit for too much stuff, but she organized most of it and got everything together, and she just did an unbelievably phenomenal job. So thank you, Melissa. All right, any questions on any of that? All right, next to 11.2, we have, yeah, go ahead, Councillor Earl.
I know it's something that maybe happened in years past and hasn't been done in recent years for events. We used to do economic impact surveys for big events. And one thing I did note, or I guess is always notable with the Gun and Sportsman show, is how many people it attracts from throughout the region, north of the river, the Alberta side of the border, and how busy the restaurants were, particularly on Saturday in town. So I'm not sure what resources are available to the Sportsman's Club to put a dollar figure on what the benefits they're bringing into our community by hosting this event are, but I think it's significant, and it would be something I'm sure that would be useful to them in future years as they look to, seek grants and funding and community support for various initiatives.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Anything else? No? All right, next 11.2. KPAC Peace Arts Festival request for sponsorship. They were in here this morning, and they had, their Peace Arts Festival that they're putting on. There was a request to us for up to $5,000 to contribute to the event. So I guess before we have discussion, open up to council, we have a small grant budget, which I think is about 11 or 12,000 for the whole year.
Yeah.
Do we know where that's at?
Yep, so you're correct. The budget's right around 12,000. And I believe we've spent about 1,200 we've utilized out of that budget to date.
Yeah, okay. I guess one other thing, maybe I'll just, Councillor Parslow, you might know this. I know the NDIT offers grants for organizations, but it has to be after their first year. Do you know what that amount is that they would be able to qualify for next year?
If this was launched this year,
yeah,
and they declared it to be an annual event, next year they'd be eligible. I think it's either $5,000 or $3,500.
Okay.
And we've managed to get quite a few organizations in the town who do it, whereas before we paid for those things, such as the vintage car group, whatever their name is now.
Yeah,
As an example, they used to get a grant from us, but then it's an annual event, and they now get an NDIT grant.
Yeah.
And there's several other groups.
yeah.
Thank you. I'm definitely in support of the whole group and the Peace Festival. My only concern is when we only have a budget of $12,000 for grants that we're only into April to, I don't want to leave us where we don't have much left in there. So that's my only thought. But Councillor McDonald?
Yes, thank you through you, Your Worship. How much of the grant did we actually use last year? Did we leave money on the table last year?
So through your worship, it appears we only spent about $5,200 of the grant last year out of that budget.
The year before it was utilized, but that was because of some permissive tax stuff, I
Yeah.
do believe. But
It varies, obviously, year to year, but
I guess the other part of it is how much, or will we be donating in kind through city services for the event? Do we know that yet? No, because if they're talking, I know they've got to apply for some permits and do some things that they discussed earlier. There's probably will be a cost associated with that too, right? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you. Sorry for a follow-up. For the normal sponsorships we do, what are they? And do they normally fall in the second half of the year?
So through your worship, it varies. Looking at what last year looked like, it's very similar to what we've done this year. The mayor's correct that there was some grants that we did in there as far as for network ministries. We did a grant, which I think was
That's a one-time.
it was a
that
one-time
the
thing.
permissive tax.
Yeah.
That was 2 years
And
ago.
so, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, most people that are going to have summer events, they're going to be in front of you in the next month or so.
For example, when we, earlier this morning, we had the Dawson Creek, or the South Peace Oilmen's ask for a request for Lobsterfest, and we donated to that. Will that come out of this grant, or is that something different because it's
No,
coming?
it comes out of this.
Because we're starting to get a few more of those requests.
And we did the Rotary auction and South Peace Search and Rescue was the other one that we did so far. So we've done Lobsterfest, Rotary, and Search and Rescue to date.
Okay. Councillor Earl?
Well, and to note with the, sorry, go ahead. Did I cut anyone off?
Were you on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, sorry.
Well, just when we allocate, a $200 value of gift cards, I mean, the cost to us isn't necessarily $200. That's just the value we put on it, and that comes out of the grant fund. But there's not, the hard cost is significantly less because you're talking about a pool pass, right?
Well, the cost might actually be more.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, because those are subsidized.
We don't have we
Yeah.
don't make money at the pool.
But-
We actually lose money, so it's actually a greater value.
But the pool's open either way,
Yeah.
whether those people
No,
use it for
exactly.
free or not. Okay, yeah, just trying to kind of get a handle on it. But, I mean, looking at the sponsorships, I'd be okay with the $2,500 one, with the exception of that they do, as part of that sponsorship, they provide a vendor booth, which I don't think we'd have much use for. I think $5,000 might be a little rich given the coming demands, and you want to, spread it throughout the community, but you also want to give them enough that it's a meaningful impact in helping towards the success of the event. So I'd be fine with a platinum sponsor for number 4, and then maybe look to see if we can't donate or give away the vendor booth to somebody who might be able to make more use of it. That's not going to incur additional expenses on our end in the form of staff time.
I mean, or we could make it as simple as a motion just to donate $2,500 for them to help with the operation of the event and not be one of their platinum level sponsors. Do you know what I mean? Like just say that we're going to give them the $2,500 to help them.
I'd like logo placement.
Well, I think we still would. I mean,
yeah. But no, I'm fine with that either way, however you want to do it. So I guess I'll make a motion then, unless I see Councillor Parslow wants to speak. So I'll wait until after he's done.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Parslow? Sorry for cutting you off if I did.
That's okay. All these things are difficult. So just being completely transparent about this, I'll share my thinking. We used to have a wonderful, wonderful Festival of the Arts in the 80s, and it drew all sorts of people from throughout the region. I know that Council is very concerned about the difficulty of attracting and retaining professional people to come and work and live here. And I can tell you that one of the things that attracted me to come and work here in 1981, many of those features that attracted me here are no longer here. Some have been cancelled by the college. Some, the economics, have shut down the airport. There used to be 3 flights a day. There's quite a few things. And I have been meeting after discussion with a member of the medical staff, been meeting with a number of people, seeing how we can bring back some of those things. It would say to somebody coming from, in my case, the Victoria area, gee, there's lots of things here for my kids to do. There's lots of educational opportunities, lots of this, lots of that. What would attract them? And I just believe that this is a startup of a new, slightly different format, but very good new annual event that paints a different picture. Not everybody is a hockey player, and I'm not knocking hockey. Not everybody curls. Okay? Not everybody likes country and western. I can go on. And we make this a more holistic community, a more inclusive community. And so I look at this as a startup grant to an annual event that could be sustained by the NDIT in future years. Then on the flip side, I have a little problem with it being honoraria. You know, most people do things, it's a volunteers, right? And I noticed that some of this money would be used for honoraria. So but then again, some of this is a performance, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just, supporting the exhibition of dancing and art and that. The people are giving a performance. So now I'm flipping myself the other way. But I was initially, and I'm going to stay there, I was going to support their request on the understanding that in future years they apply for an NDIT grant. And this is going to be an annual event. So that's my thinking, and I do appreciate my colleagues giving the floor to me, and pass it over to him now.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't disagree with the sentiments expressed by Councillor Parslow. Certainly, this community has a diverse array of interests, and talents that you want to give every opportunity for people to express themselves. One thing that was deterring, above and beyond the fact that we've got a finite budget for grants, is the fact that they advised that the funds would be used for an honorarium. I guess at the end of the day, these groups are trying to cultivate a community, so $250 to pay for snacks for meetings to keep their membership up isn't really, at the end of the day, it comes back to the community in the form of they're able to host these events and put them on. So I don't begrudge them that. It's just more a matter of we've got a finite budget. So I'll make a motion since Councillor Parslow said $3,500 was the amount for the NDIT grant, that we provide sponsorship for $3,500 for the inaugural startup year, with the understanding that in future years the event applies for the NDIT grant.
Thanks, Councillor Elder. Have a second. Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? No. All right, I will call that motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. Next order of business, 12, Chief Administrative Officer operational updates.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of quick items. The memorial slab project replacement is underway. They started last week with the cutting of the slab and removing of that. I'm not too sure how much they've gotten out, but that is underway. So far, so good. Few things we find, nothing that has, taken us off track or anything as of yet, but it's construction, so we're likely to find something along the way that'll probably cause a few bumps in the road, but so far, so good. The other item was the just update on the watershed. So far, so good. The river is slowly coming up a little bit more, so flows are steady, which is allowing us to pump, as much as we can within our permit, so that's good news. Really, the good news story is when we had the period where we couldn't pump, we had I think it was 160,000 cubic meter deficit that we had used up from, January to March. We have now reduced that down to 75,000 cubes. So we've made up 85,000 cubes over the last month, so that's good news. Nice. So we're heading in the right direction. So hopefully if things continue here in another 3-4 weeks, we'll be back up to, in South Dawson, will be topped right back up. So that's the plan.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. On that, I just had one question. Or sorry, did you have more?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I just had a question from somebody in the community about the slab in the Memorial Arena. So when it gets redone, is it going to be lifted up a bit? Like I know there's a big, right now from the step down from like the boards to the... Yeah. So is the plan to lift it up?
It will come up a little bit, I understand, but we can only do so much because down at the other end where the ice machine goes out, it's so there's some, but if I remember correctly, it's either 6 or 8 inches that it is coming up.
Okay.
So it will make it a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, perfect. And that's good on the reservoir. So I guess really, if it, like in the next 3 or 4 weeks, depending on how everything goes, it could be topped back up.
Let's hope that conditions stay the same or improve and yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. This might be redundant because we are recovering so fast, but would we have been able to ask for a temporary increase to our permit to be able to pump more to recover faster?
So, through your worship, our permit is pretty clear. If the river flow is under a certain amount, we can take basically 9,000 cubic meters a day. If the goes over that amount, then we can double it to 18,000. We can't actually pump 18,000. We could probably do 12, 13 out of the pumps there. We have looked at some strategies if we needed to to increase that pumping. But right now, the way things are going, we don't think we're going to have to enact that. With what we can pump ourselves and how it's going, I think we'll be fine.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Water's at the top of a lot of people's minds. You went to, or some of your staff went to or took part in a conversational briefing from the climate office in Vancouver or Victoria?
It was local, Emergency Management BC hosted.
Emergency Management BC.
Yeah.
When do they, somebody told me, but I can't remember the details here now. When do they see relief from El Nino?
So what they are forecasting, and it's just that, is that El Nino will switch to La Nina, which typically means cooler and more moisture, sometime in the fall. But they said that they don't anticipate any measurable change until maybe into the winter. Again, we're talking about probabilities here, but it's not coming soon, I guess, is really what they're saying, is it's going to be in the fall for sure when it changes. The forecasts right now are for April and May for sure to be warmer and drier than normal. And generally, the long-term temperature forecast is warmer than normal. Precipitation, they say, is a little more variable. They don't have the same accuracy on that. Their models show lower than normal, but again, they qualify that by saying it's simply not as accurate. They did share that, I think it was between, I'll say, September of last year and March of this year, we're at a 75% lower than normal precipitation or something like it. It was significant. And you figure you add that to where we already were going in last fall, because we'd already had over a year of really drought. So, yeah.
So the reason, apart from just knowing this, just people do ask me a lot of questions about some technical things. So do you see any relief for the oil gas industry in the use of potable water for fracking in the upcoming months?
Well, that's a tough question. I think what first order of business is if we can get the reservoir back up to where we want it. And then I think we have to look at the weather, and then I think we have, we bring that update to council, and then we can make a decision collectively on what that looks like. My concern when we put these conservation measures we're on is we didn't know how long it was going to stay cold and how long we weren't going to be able to pump. And we needed to, sustain as long as we could. And now we need to build that back up. And once we do, then we can make some adjustments based on what we know then.
Another factor that I tell people, we need to make sure our reservoirs are kept full because of possible firefighting requirements.
Yeah. If the river is, let's say it's still in the same spot it is today, a month from now and the reservoirs are full, I would say yes, because we're able to pump. Yeah. We can keep the reservoirs full, and we can afford to have usage in the city, 6,000, 6,500 cubes, where today we're 5,500, let's say.
Right.
So we can see that growth.
One last question, if I may, about the truck refill, the reclaimed. We are planning to install another bay for loading.
Yeah, we're looking at that, to add another fill station, kiosk.
And when's the likelihood that would come in operational? Would it be the fall or winter?
Yeah, I would say realistically the soonest we could do it by the time we would be fall.
Be the fall. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other questions? No? All right, thanks, Kevin. Next order of business, 13 diary. Nothing in the diary. 14 consent calendar. Anyone want to lift anything? No. All right, get a motion.
Your Worship, just, and I apologize. I was going to do that in my CEO updates, but just bring attention to, we did include the regional district requisition that came forward. And I just thought it was an important piece of information, not only for council, but for the public. And it's in the consent calendar. And just what it shows is what we collect as a local government on behalf of, the regional district in this case. But we do collect significant amounts of money on behalf of other agencies. And so this is just one part of it. And again, I thought it was good information.
That was on 7 and 8 on the consent calendar. Yeah, I think it's good to share that. Thank you.
All right, motion to accept the consent calendar as presented. Councillor Kemp, second. Councillor Earl. I'll call that motion. Need one more to vote, please. Or maybe more. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 15 media questions. Media. Yeah. And then motion to, I guess we're done. That's it, 17. Yeah, motion to adjourn. Councillor Earl, second. Councillor Sudnick. I'll call that to vote.
You have it for 3 o'clock today.
Vote in favor. We're doing
Old school. There you go, Charlie.
It's carried. All in favor.
Whatever.